multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, and acts of torture, all among the other charges previously listed by Honorable Judge Holden. This is a man who has ruthlessly carved his way through innocent men and women, taking them against their will, only to film their final moments while gloating about his ideals, idols, and plans, all accumulating in their untimely death through his sick, premeditated methods. Everything that the defendant has done was to gain notoriety, from contacting officers, investigating, to twatting out the videos they would create, or even directly sending the videos to the victims' loved ones. Through both witness testimony and hard evidence, it will be clear that no other person but the defendant could have possibly committed these atrocious crimes, all while understanding the gravity of harming so many people and enjoying every single act that he committed.
Does that conclude your statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just to get this on record, because the docket is sealed, what is the sentencing that you are recommending?
Serial assault and killing. The death penalty, sir.
All right. The record reflects that the people are seeking and recommending the death penalty on this matter.
What's up?
Defense. Do you have any opening remarks in your own defense?
Okay. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. I am completely unprepared for an opening statement.
All right. Well, you may still wish to make an argument on your own behalf, even if you have not prepared one. But if you yield your time, then the court acknowledges that. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Kowal. Very well. Prosecution may present any evidence or call forward their first witness to be sworn in.
The prosecution would like to call upon Sheriff Sam Bass.
Sheriff Bass, please approach the witness stand to be sworn in.
Of course.
Who is going to be swearing in people for me today?
Like it.
I can, Your Honor, if you'd like.
Rogers, come up here and do it.
Any takers?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you very much, Rogers. Good to
No
see
problem. Good to see you too, Your Honor. Sheriff Bass, at this time, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, and no penalty of perjury, to help you airborne?
Do.
Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
Prosecution, your witness.
On August 18th, 2020, a package was delivered to you at Mission Row. What do you recall about the package?
I was working on my reports. That's when I was given a package by an individual who I recall his name was Elvin. I don't remember exactly his last name. It looked a bit janky as far as the package and a bit worn. And when I examined the package, there appeared to be like bloodstains on the back.
The prosecution would like to bring attention to the People's Queue package number 7.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The prosecution would like to attention to People's Queue package number 7.
People's Queue. Okay. Jasper Saxon, case file. Let me pull that up.
I can send it directly to our email chain if you like, Your Honor.
I've got it. Proceed.
Did he provide any sort of identification?
He did.
Is that delivery person in this courtroom today?
Yes.
moment, Your Honor. Can you point out who exactly is the individual in this courtroom today?
Male subject wearing white on white with a little yellow vest.
The defendant?
Yes.
Hey guys,
No further questions, Your Honor.
Rini, Eggy,
Alright, thank
Colleen, Amiga, how are all you?
Mr. Kowal, at this point in time, you are able to question this witness. regarding any
Multitasking a little bit,
questions
so sorry I
the
didn't see y'all
prosecution
jump in.
has already put forward. Anything outside of the scope of what's already been discussed by this witness, the prosecution may object to, and those objections may be sustained. I'm going to be explaining these things to you as best I can,
Down
as
the
much
video.
brevity as possible as we proceed, so that you can best carry out your own defense. With that in mind, do you have any questions of your own that you would like to present to Sheriff Bass?
Holy.
I am sorry, I did not quite catch what you said there, Mr. Kowal. Mr. Kowal?
Oh. All right, so Sheriff Bass, you stated that this gentleman delivering the package provided ID.
Believe so.
Is there a picture of that ID?
I didn't take a picture of it. I examined it for my documentation.
So this happened, okay, August 18th, 2020. Almost a year ago. Over a year
Years
ago,
ago.
holy. And in 2 years, you are positively identifying that individual still with no photo ID listed.
Every ID in the city's got a photo ID on it.
I never heard him sound like that.
Did this gentleman provide his driver's license or was it a work ID?
It was a work ID. I believe it was a Go Postal ID.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Kowal. Prosecution, do you wish to redirect?
Sheriff Bass,
Yes, ma'am.
would you agree that in the police report that you wrote after the case or after the incident, you wrote that there was a badge presented to you, specifically a Go Postal badge, as per the people's evidence that we brought forward?
Correct.
No further questions.
Sheriff Bass, you may step down. At this time, I'm going to be asking the defendant, Mr. Kowal, you are entitled to recall this witness if you have any other questions outside of the scope of this line of questioning. If you recall him, he will need to stay until it is your turn to call any witnesses. Otherwise, I'm going to inform him he's free to leave. Do you have any further questions not related to this that you'd like to ask Sheriff Bass?
I don't think I will, Your Honor.
Sheriff Bass, you are freed of your obligation as a witness in this matter. You are certainly welcome to stay, but if you have other matters to attend to, you are free to leave at this time.
Thank you.
All right, prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Our next witness will be Flop Dugong.
Flop Dugong, please approach the witness stand and be sworn in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good evening, Deputy Dugong. Will you please raise your right hand?
Good evening.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and our penalties of perjury, so help you airborne.
I do.
Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
Thank you, Rogers. Prosecution, it's your witness. You may proceed.
What was your role in this investigation?
Mainly to be an open communication between Reggie Might and Ash Ketchup.
Did you receive any phone calls from the defendant throughout this investigation?
I received many.
Did you receive a call on December 25th, 2021?
I did. I received a phone call from Jasper Saxon. Explain
How-
to me. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, how long was that phone call?
Roughly 8 to 10 minutes.
Did the caller mention any of the victims in this court case?
In that phone call specifically, no. The first time that Jasper had contacted me, he did tell me that his name was Jasper Saxon.
Who dis?
Did the caller ever talk about a list with stars?
The caller did. They talked about people in the courtroom such as yourself, Mackenzie Hayes, Ash Ketchup, and Reggie Might. Tate Hudson was another name that was brought up as well.
You mentioned Tate Hudson. What did the
I should have
caller
done yoga
mention
before I came
about
into the
this
case. I didn't realize how
individual?
stressed my character was.
From the best of my recollection, Jasper had informed me that he had him while he was on the phone with me. He did. I'm sorry. He told me that he had Tate over the phone, but he didn't say anything regarding what he was going to do with him, except for the fact that he wanted to essentially see him die.
Did the defendant ever talk about other names on the list?
He talked about a lot of people on the list. It would be hard to recall everybody, but he also mentioned stars as well.
What exactly about stars?
He wanted to, I guess, break down that everybody that had a star was linked to another person. Yeah.
Back to the phone call. Did the caller ever talk about making videos?
Yes. I was informed on numerous occasions that Jasper was in the process of making videos on all of his victims.
Did you receive any other phone calls from the defendant?
I had received multiple phone calls throughout the entirety of this investigation.
Did you receive a call on February 2nd, 2022?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
Do you recall how long that phone call was?
Anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes.
Numbers.
Did the caller identify themselves to you?
In that phone call specifically, no. I do know that the caller did follow certain speech patterns that I had picked up on to previous phone calls. And it was very clear to me that I was speaking to the defendant.
During this phone call, did the caller ever mention additional victims in this court case?
Yes. Between all the phone calls that I had from the beginning of the investigation up to this point, all the phone calls that I had with Jasper, he had brought up a lot of different people. Unfortunately, a lot of them that he did bring up are no longer in this court case today, as they are deceased.
Did the caller mention any cases from the past?
He mentioned one regarding gluing a knife to a victim's hand. who was then shot by a police officer.
As per the People's J, report 35202, you were on scene for Mr. Hudson's death. How exactly did Mr. Hudson perish?
Could you repeat the question?
As per the People's J, report 35202, you were on scene for Mr. Hudson's death, Mr. Tate Hudson.
Yes.
How did the victim perish?
He was incapacitated by myself. To reiterate, I was the one to shoot Tate Hudson.
And why was Mr. Hudson shot?
Mr. Hudson was shot mainly because we had gave the suspect at the time, as we did not have any identification on the person as they were masked, multiple warnings to put down a weapon, which was a knife in hand. We informed the person to drop the knife numerous times. In that time, yourself, Mackenzie Hayes, discharged her taser once in order to try and de-escalate prior to discharging my firearm.
You stated that Mr. Hudson was masked. How else was he dressed?
He was dressed in all white, which was an outfit that we had seen before on the suspect. And it was under the impression at the time that when we identified the person that it could have been possibly the defendant.
Objection, Your Honor. Misstatement of evidence.
Okay, rebuttal.
Could the defense elaborate?
He claimed that the individual was wearing all white. He was not.
All right. Any further rebuttals from the prosecution before I explain my thinking?
The witness is currently attempting to recall all information to the best of their abilities.
All right, Mr. Kowal, this witness is recalling from memory the events as he remembers them. If he remembers it being all white, that is not a misstatement of evidence unless the evidence, there's evidence you can directly point to in the people's exhibits that contradicts that, in which case we may need to consider that further. Is there any specific reference you're referring to in the evidence?
1 second, Your Honor.
Poor Mike, man. Try to, he may have, honestly. I think he did. He dressed him up as himself, specifically to get the cops to murder him. Good Jasper, man, but poor Mike have to do this court case with, like, no real legal knowledge, man. I wonder if anybody helped him with it or anything.
All right, Your Honor. In People's J, the
Mike is
photos
so
of
good
the
at this stuff,
scene,
though. Like, horrible.
Number 2 specifically showed the individual was dressed in all gray.
Rebuttal, Your Honor.
Giggling.
It's
Go ahead.
clear. It's clear that gray, although one description, white could be another, and to the witness's memory, clear that there is a. It's hard to make such a distinction.
All right, the difference between light gray and white is extremely negligible. I am going to note the discrepancy and we'll consider it accordingly, but I'm overruling the objection. His statement will maintain that that's how he remembers it.
Okay. Were
Don't
there
like that the,
similarities to Mr.
prosecutor
Hudson's
giggled.
passing to the previously mentioned Jasper Saxton case?
Yes. The defendant, I couldn't recall which phone call this was, but did recall a previous scene of the original Jasper Saxton case involving Brian Knight, where Brian Knight had to incapacitate a victim who was dressed and was incapacitated by himself.
Did you receive any other relevant communication from the defendant?
Toward the end, he started to text me.
The prosecution would like to bring attention to the Peoples v. phone subpoena March 5th to March 6th.
That's V as in Victor.
Affirm.
He's so good, but again, if you're not familiar with the court system, I imagine this is probably brutal.
What was said in this text message?
To the best of my recollection, he started off by sending me a GIF, and to clarify, it was a .gif. It was a small cut video, I guess you could say, of Ash Ketchum. I believe from Pokemon. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't watch Pokemon as a kid. I'm sort of neglected on that. And then it was followed by another text. After I believe I had a short response to it. And it was something along the lines of saying that he wanted to let me know that he was going to be catching them all.
What did you read into this message?
Initially, when I saw the text, I was under the impression that someone had been taken from Jasper's list. In other words, one of the possible victims.
Was one of the possible victims Miss Ketchup?
Yes. Ash was one of the victims since almost the beginning. I couldn't tell you when she originally became a victim, but she was definitely a person in question that I immediately made reference to.
Had Ash been mentioned at all in any previous communications with you and the defendant?
Yeah, on numerous occasions. I couldn't recall every single one, but it had come out quite a few times.
Do you recall the primary tone of how he would bring Ash up?
Demeaning, I think, is a good way to put it. There were a slew of other ways, seeing as Jasper did change his voice quite a bit in terms of his tone for the way he spoke to people. But I would say demeaning is the primary.
Objection, speculation.
I'm not sure, honestly, with why he's defending
repeat your
himself. I think he
response?
chose.
You're talking to me, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sure. I would say that the tone primarily from Jasper over the phone, to my understanding, was very demeaning.
I'm gonna sustain that objection. That response is stricken from the record, though you may rephrase the question. Respond a little less speculation.
One second, Your Honor.
Again, kudos to him for swinging on it, man. That's big.
What were the topics that this Jasper would bring up whenever they talked about Miss Ketchup?
Jasper would bring up potentially kidnapping Ash Ketchup.
And throughout your testimony today, you have been referencing the name Jasper as if he was the defendant. Can you explain?
Based on my understanding and based on how this investigation had ensued, I am under the belief that, based on phone calls and having short, brief discussion with the
Once
defendant,
again, objection, opinion.
I want to hear the rest of what he has to say, and then I'll consider the objection. Let him finish.
sure, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Based on, I forgot where I was. I apologize, Your Honor. Based on how this investigation had ensued, I am under the impression that the defendant is the alias one Jasper Saxon. Like I had said earlier, I am under the impression that based on his tone and based on the way that things had ensued and based on the information
Yeah, but that's
that
part of the
had
things,
been
right?
brought forward,
Sometimes it's
between
better
phone
that
calls
a
and in person,
character ends
that the defendant is a one Jasper Saxon.
what makes the story good.
All right. Do you renew your objection after hearing the entire statement, Mr. Cole?
I still believe, Your Honor, that that is an opinion.
Rebuttal, Your Honor.
Of course.
If I'm understanding correctly, the defendant is claiming that this is an opinion of layperson. Detective Flop is a detective within the Street Crimes Unit within the Unified Police Department. He operates with these sorts of people throughout these days. He works with evidence. He works with reports. He simply is stating what he believed through his investigative work to be the alias that the suspect used.
All right, I'm going to overrule the objection. Mr. Dugong is a detective who is drawing upon the fruits of his own investigation and experience with both of these alleged individuals to come to a professionally informed and trained conclusion. So it is not the opinion of a layperson in this matter, as the prosecution said. I'm overruling that. That answer will stand.
Prosecution has no further questions.
Okay. Does the defendant wish to cross-examine this witness? Everything I said to you already on this particular matter still stands. You may question Mr. Dugong, Detective Dugong, about anything that's already been discussed.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Flop Dugong, you stated you received phone calls in December from the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Right. And were those from the defendant's phone number?
No, they were not.
So, how did you know that it was the defendant on the other line?
I believe I've already answered this, but I'd be more than willing to reiterate it.
Well, let's wait and see if the prosecution has any objections.
Objection, asked and answered.
I'm going to sustain that. That has already been.
Boone fed them that bucket
Yes, Your
objection,
Honor.
didn't they?
So, how were these? Okay.
All right. At this time, I'm going to call a brief 1 to 2 minute recess, but I want to have Mr. Kowal uncuffed from the table at least and brought over here along with the prosecution. I want to address something real quick with both sides.
Your Honor, may I step down?
No, you can stay put.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can walk.
Why are they doing this?
I have no idea.
Gee, guess what?
What?
We can be logging again.
What?
Because I'm gonna bring down criminal.
Gonna be a cop?
Yeah.
Are you a cadet now?
Well, I'm hired. I just gotta do onboard.
Congrats, man. That's
I
awesome.
made Toretti cry.
Oh, you're gonna be a part of Toretti's?
No, I told him I
Oh.
wasn't.
Oh, good. Smart move.
But I think I'm mildly afraid I disappointed Davenport
Why?
because he wanted me to go to his boot camp.
Oh,
But I got hired by PBSO,
yuck.
and that man's voice intimidates me.
Hey, Davenport?
Yeah, it's so monotone and deep.
Emotionless.
Yeah,
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
thank you. All right, we're bringing the gang back together. I'll get a grain. I'll buy one. I got this.
Mr. Griswoldstein,
Your Honor.
can you approach the bench, please?
So I think that the judge I is don't know, deciding Egg.
uh,
a legal representative for the defendant.
Is it
falling apart because of that, Reg?
What was that?
Is it falling apart because he hasn't got a lawyer?
Well, I mean, honestly, we as the DOJ should have already sought a lawyer for him, and I don't know if the judge reached out to him or not.
Apparently, he reached out to plenty on his own and was denied by all of them.
Right. Answers that
question.
Did I know I remember being a lawyer, and plenty of times judges reached out to me to do the shit. So I would have thought that Holden would have reached out and seen himself.
I mean, that's on the judge, right? If the judge felt he
Yeah.
was capable of doing this, then
Yeah.
is he not? Is he failing?
I mean, there's not really much. There's a couple of objections, but it's nothing bad. But as for questioning, this is something you'd need prep for, not just last minute questioning.
Well, adding a random lawyer is not going to help there.
Nope, not at all.
Need time to read stuff.
Yeah. There is no way a lawyer can come up with an adequate defense this last minute. There is no way.
If he is going down this... Reg, step outside for 1 second with me.
So all the lawyers refused to take his case, I guess. In terms of the Skud lawyer arc, I just don't know if I'm going to. That is a character that gets impatient. Like, it might not seem like it given his general... I'll wait for you, Iggy.
I don't understand what's happening.
Oh, it's our assigning him an attorney to help through this case.
All right, just let me know when Mr. Stout is up to speed as far as the discovery, and then we can proceed. Thank you. The court thanks Mr. Stout for stepping in to advise Mr. Kowal on his own self-defense, as he requested a lawyer but was unable to find one and decided to represent himself. Feels the obligation of the court to assist him as best we can.
Say hello in DOJ General. Say hello in just general everything.
The hell is Ursula? Like, knowing what we know now about Ursula, the fact.
Real court case.
Hour and 55 minutes is when it's supposed to start. I feel like it's kind of going to push back.
But don't you have to get ready before it?
Well, not really.
Wait, what course case you got?
Oh, just a casual terrorism with CG.
How fun.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, right?
You ready?
Need a body
Oh.
double again.
Probably to walk out first.
Say less.
I already prepped a fair bit of stuff beforehand.
All right, Mr. Stout, if you need a minute to acclimate yourself to your new situation, that's understood, but we do want to get things moving as soon as you're ready, so please let me know.
Also, I would not want to be the lawyer who just got the fucking Jasper case dropped on you.
Okay, Your Honor, I'll do my best. I'm ready.
Mr. Stout, I want to be perfectly clear that it's not going to reflect poorly on you in any way if you are not adequately prepared to try this case. As I've said, I am simply looking for someone to assist Mr. Kowal in his own defense, as an attorney was not able to be secured by him during pretrial. And as this matter was sealed, it was made, I think, in my estimation, unnecessarily difficult for him to secure legal counsel. So it is appreciated, and again, will not reflect poorly on you if you are not fully prepared to try this case for him. Just do your best to assist Mr. Kowal on matters of court procedure and the law, and with any objections you might deem to be valuable.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, are we ready to proceed?
I'm
The
ready,
prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
All right, I'm calling this this court case back into session. You may resume examining your witness.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, is there any redirect for Flop Dugong?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, Detective Dugong.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may step down. Does the defense wish to recall Detective Dugong for an additional line of questioning?
So,
I
We will
don't
not-
believe so. Oh, wait, would you like to?
what did you say?
Is Ursula gonna film us?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yep, we don't need him for recall then, Your Honor.
Very well.
Because it's an open
Detective
court
Dugong,
case, they
same as
can
with
for the
Bass.
city.
You are certainly welcome to stay if you wish to see the rest of this case, but you are free of any obligation to be here and may pursue any other obligations.
Shitty, and that's why I was telling them how to
Thank you, Your
work
Honor.
the,
I am part
how
of
to
the
word to keep it
prosecution,
sealed.
So I do intend on staying.
Very well. And with that, does the prosecution wish to call any further witnesses?
The prosecution would like to call Sergeant Detective Mackenzie Hayes to the stand.
All right, Sergeant Detective Mackenzie Hayes, please.
Why are
approach
they
the stand
giggling?
To be sworn in, we will need to assign a new bailiff or perhaps a judge to handle that for me? Are there any takers?
I can swear in for you, Judge.
Yeah, just anyone but me who can swear him in.
Okay, raise your left hand, Detective Hayes.
Her in,
Do you
I'm sorry.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give this court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Really
So
bothers me.
help you, Coyle.
Prosecute.
I do.
This person has been sworn in.
Sergeant Detective Hayes, you're sworn in. Prosecution, you may proceed with your questioning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Detective, what was your role in this investigation?
I was the lead investigator for this investigation.
Did you receive any phone calls from the defendant throughout this investigation?
I received multiple phone calls, some unknown, some from the defendant's phone.
Did you receive a phone call
Not
on
throwing us.
15th of December
Jasper
2021?
just isn't.
Objection, vague. 15th of December 2021, that's a whole day. Could be a whole bunch of phone calls. What phone call?
Did you receive any phone calls from the defendant on December 15th, 2021?
There we go.
Yes, I did.
Hang on, there's
Objection,
an objection.
facts not in evidence.
Hang on.
I
I was not
reworded.
able to rule on my objection. That will not happen again in this case.
Yes, Your Honor.
I am going to sustain the objection of vague, and you may ask that question again.
There we go. Did you receive any phone calls from the defendant on December 15th, 2021?
Objection, facts not in evidence.
Rebuttal?
She hadn't even answered yet, Your Honor,
I mean,
whether she had or not.
You may object to a question as well as an answer. So, again,
Obviously,
I'm asking you
but-
for a rebuttal.
Let me confirm, Your Honor, but I believe we have sent Mackenzie Hayes's phone records within the evidence.
Okay. Well, could you point that to me?
I'm getting you the specific evidence labeled, Your Honor.
All right. I still want that, but regardless, I'm going to overrule that objection anyway on the basis that Hayes is being questioned on her recollection if a phone call occurred. She may answer to that without any such call being in evidence. So it's sort of besides the point. Objection or overruled.
Did you receive a phone call from the defendant on December 15th, 2021?
Yes, I did.
Did you recognize the number?
No, it was an unknown phone number.
How can you be certain that it was the defendant?
Now they just sound.
Due to the same speech patterns and the same subject matter being spoken about throughout every phone call.
And during this phone call, what did the caller state their name to be?
They stated that their
Objection,
name...
leading.
Rebuttal, Your Honor?
Rebuttal. Yes, go
I'm
ahead.
simply asking if the caller identified themselves at all during the phone call.
She asked what they state the name to be, assuming to know what transpired in that conversation.
All right, sustain. Just rephrase the question the way you said in your rebuttal.
How did the caller identify themselves during the phone call?
Objection, leading. How do we know he even identified himself?
Oh my god.
I'm
All
simply
right,
questioning.
Mr. Griswoldstein. It's gonna be a warning on nitpicky objections.
Understood.
I understand where you're going with this, but we do not need to manufacture a need for 5 questions to get one answer. Those types of objections will be overruled very, very offhand, and we will move on. There's not enough wrong with that question to justify turning it into 6.
I'll
So
write it
let's
back
just get
out.
on.
Thank you. Sorry.
Let's just get it on.
Did the caller identify themselves in this phone call?
They did. They stated that their name was Jasper, and that they were previously known as Marcus.
During this call, did the caller identify themselves with any of your investigations?
They stated that they wanted me to stop investigating the murders so they can turn over a new leaf and to not be the copycat anymore, and that they...
Objection. I want to say this answer's slightly vague. She said they. I'm understanding there's only one person on this phone call.
Rebuttal, they can be a singular pronoun, Your Honor.
And it could be used to not assume gender of some disembodied voice on a phone call. I'm going to overrule the objection.
So they stated that they wanted me to stop investigating the copycat cassette killer and that they were no longer Marcus and that they were going to turn over a new leaf and go about their life.
This discussion, did the caller mimic anything that you had found in your investigation?
Objection. I'd like to say that's leading and a lack of foundation.
Oh,
I'm actually going to agree on that one. Sustained. Please be more clear with the question and lay a better foundation.
As per the evidence that we have submitted for this court case, specifically the people's
Ooh, I hate this
the number of
woman.
videos
I don't
that
know
have
who
been
it is, but like,
submitted during this investigation. You've already stated that the caller identified themselves with this investigation. Did he happen to mimic any of the comments made within those videos?
The only mimicking that was consistent with both the...
I don't know who
people's
this
video
character
as well
is, but
as
I
the
do
phone
not
call
like the way
was
they're
that they
acting in
stated that
court.
Marcus was in hell and that Jasper already paid for his crimes.
You called him a copycat. What is he copying?
They proclaim themselves a copycat of Jasper Saxton, a serial killer that would leave cassette tapes of murders for police by mail or by other means.
What was further said in this conversation?
He said that he wanted to become a police officer and that he was going to apply to the police department.
Thank you.
And due to his connections to the underground city and serial killers, that he would use his knowledge for the good of the public.
You stated he had connections with underground. Did he identify who he was talking to?
He brought up the Smileys and Fug, who are known serial killer groups, with Fug being a branch of the Smileys.
And you mentioned that he wanted to apply to the PD. Can you expand on your comment about this?
He just stated that he was going to apply to the PD and that was the foundation of him turning over a new leaf to help the general public.
What was the caller's tone like when he spoke about this? To your best
the
recollection.
prosecutor's bothering.
It was sarcastic and void of actual wishing to help the public.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
I'm simply asking how she responded.
Oh, go ahead. Rebuttal.
I'm simply asking how she recalled it to be, not how it was, simply how she recalled it.
I'm going to give the defense response to that.
The sarcastic was a tone. The rest of it was a speculation about the feelings behind said tone.
I'm going to sustain that. let's refrain from asking questions regarding your opinion of someone's disposition, especially in particular over a phone call where you cannot even see their facial expression. That's not going to be given much weight in this. So let's just stick to what happened, what was said, things of that nature.
Very well. During your investigation, did you ever attempt to locate an application from the defendant for the PD?
Yes, I contacted Lieutenant Matthew Espinoz as well as Lieutenant Anita May, who are individuals that run the P&T department for the PD, and they stated that they did not receive any application for the defendant or any aliases that they used.
All right. So you stated that you received further phone calls from the defendant. Did you receive any on January 15th, 2022?
I did receive a phone call.
And did you recognize the number?
It was another unknown phone call.
What was discussed during this phone call?
He talked about his general day-to-day, that he was having a hard time keeping up with all of his meetings, his other unknown phone calls, and that he didn't kill anyone
The
yet.
tone is like very
and
put out.
I was the key to someone's release.
Who was that someone?
Objections. Calls to speculation.
I'm simply asking if a name was given.
Yeah, I'm going to allow this, but if it does not result in finding out how the witness knew who it was, then that will be stricken in the next couple questions. But I'm going to allow this to continue for now. You may renew your objection if we don't get to something.
They stated that the individual's name was Tate Hudson.
And what was discussed about Mr. Hudson?
That he was getting tired of me asking about Mr. Hudson's general whereabouts, and that I would know in due time where Mr. Hudson is.
Why were you asking about Mr. Hudson?
I was asking about Mr. Hudson due to him stating over a phone call that he had Mr. Hudson held against his will.
Just to confirm, the defendant stated this?
Yes, and I was the key to his release.
Prosecution would like to bring attention to the People's G, specifically evidence 31939, phone photo 1.
Just a moment. Phone photo 1. That I see video on phone. Scene P2 photo on phone. Is that exactly what it's called?
I had copied it, so it's possible it had been changed, or sometimes the MPW is not
Can
perfect.
you double check that so I have the
Yes, Your Honor.
exact?
Your Honor, it appears it's in subsection evidence from 31939, 122525 Reggie Might, phone photo 1.
All right, I see Reggie Might scene photograph 1. I don't see anything with Reggie Might phone photo.
On it, and there's a bunch of links and evidence underneath that from the
I'm specifically referring to 31939, scene P2, photo on phone.
Oh, well, that's a different name.
Yes.
Yes.
If I want the defense's
Okay.
opinion
I'll sit
on
back
the
down.
report prepared by the prosecution, I will ask for it. I was getting that from the prosecution, but thank you, Grizz.
My apology.
All right, I have this. I have this for review. You may proceed.
So, Mr. Hudson was kidnapped, as you stated, or missing rather. How was he eventually found?
He was found from getting a phone call, once again unknown, stating that I was going to need to find Mr. Hudson fast, that he was bleeding out, and that I was going to get a video of his location from Mr. Hudson's phone. I then received a text of a link of a video where Mr. Hudson is in a trailer, and we went to go locate the trailer and were able to find Mr. Hudson inside of the trailer.
How did Mr. Hudson perish?
Object to that.
Myself.
Objection. The opinion of a layperson.
All right, I'm going to go over this one more time. Members of law enforcement, in particular detectives and detective sergeants, are not going to be considered by this court to be laypersons, as they have training and professional experience in exactly this type of situation. So,
Okay, then objection, best evidence. The medical
Elaborate.
report is in the evidence listed, referenced by the prosecution earlier.
And
the medical report is prepared and states the cause of death, I'm assuming. I haven't been able to read it because I just got here.
overruled. The witness can answer to what's in the evidence or what her recollection of that is. There's no issue with that.
To please the defense, I will reword the question. What were the actions leading up to Tate Hudson's death?
Myself and Officer Dugong breached the trailer that Mr. Hudson was located in. Mr. Hudson then flees into the back room. He was dressed all in black with a black mask, black hat, black jacket, detailings of gray. And it looked like he had a knife in his hand. I attempted to make contact with him and was unable to do so.
I would like to make a general objection to this answer. She's saying the person in this had a black mask. I'm just wondering how she made the connections definitively. Who's she saying?
Mr. Griswoldstein, do you understand how a court proceeding works?
Yes, Your Honor.
I assume so, since you're an attorney. Then you must know that you will have the ability to cross-examine this witness if you have any questions about that, rather than forming it in the nature of an objection. So, overruled your general objection. Please, let's continue.
I attempted to tase Mr. Hudson when he was in the bedroom, and he ended up lunging at me with the knife. Officer Dugong was forced to shoot Mr. Hudson due to him attacking. And he was ID'd by
Go ahead.
his ID being on his person.
For my next question, the prosecution would like to bring attention to People's J, specifically the projectile and casings from a PD taser listed in evidence.
Pulling up People's J, please stand by.
And
Your time, Your Honor.
Anything specific to People's J that I need to call my attention to?
The projectile and casing of a PD taser, Your Honor.
Never mind.
All right, noted. Please continue.
Did you perform any sort of fingerprinting or DNA test to confirm the identity that matched the ID?
Yes, his fingerprints were taken at the morgue and came back a match to Mr. Hudson.
All right, let's return to the phone call on the 15th of January. Was there anything else discussed that you'd like to add?
He talked about his friends, that he had easy access to IDs, and he had knowledge
Fuck
of
is
the
that
cars
question?
I
Is there anything
drove,
you'd just like to generally
his
ramble
court
about?
records.
You mentioned IDs. Could you elaborate?
That he had hundreds of IDs to be used to evade police.
The prosecution would like to bring attention to the People's P, specifically the raid receipt listed within that report.
Moment.
P as in Papa.
All right, continue.
I want to return back to this idea of him applying to PD. Did he state a reasoning for why he wanted to do that?
I said that he wanted to turn over a new leaf and help the public and help police with handling serial killers.
In following him stating he wanted to turn over a new leaf, were there additional kills?
Yes.
Well, objection vague? Additional kills, huh?
Were there additional...
Hang on.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Your Honor. Sorry.
I told you that was not going to happen again.
Yes, sorry,
you
Your
have a
Honor.
rebuttal before you continue. Rephrasing your question.
I'm happy to rephrase, Your Honor.
All right. Is that your rebuttal?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to sustain the objection then. Please go.
Following him stating a new leaf, were there any additional victims related to the copycat cassette killer?
Unfortunately, yes. There was the first-degree murder of Faith and Tate Hudson, and attempted murder of Judge Might and Miss Ketchup.
And beyond these phone calls that you've mentioned already, do you receive any other phone calls or text messages?
I did receive phone calls and a couple of text messages.
Prosecution would like to bring attention to the people's C and V. Alvin Kowal phone subpoenas 2-2 to 3-2, as well as 3-5 to 3-6.
I just remembered.
All right. Which should I be looking at first? You've just
That fucking
turned up
Odessa?
the report and look at some text messages.
The
Diddy, are you
people's
still here?
S
Is
and
that
V,
Odessa?
they're both phone subpoenas, Your Honor. Prosecution would like to note the calls to the witness,
Sorry,
as well as the text
just to
messages.
clarify, I thought you said F as in Frank, but you said S as in Sam.
Sierra and Victor.
All right. I've got that up now.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. What was the general verbiage used by the defendant throughout these phone calls and text messages?
The verbiage for the phone calls, he was either very confident, very blatant to the fact, or pretending to be under duress, and whenever I called him out on it, he would switch back to being his normal.
I'd like to object to the answer having speculation in it with the pretending, so to speak. How is she to know?
Sergeant Detective Mackenzie Hayes is a detective within the street crime.
Hang on. When there's an objection, they're going to present their objection, then you argue the point, or you say, I withdraw the question. Don't just proceed with another question.
I'm rebuttaling,
Oh,
Your Honor.
Okay. Sounded like you were starting a new question.
No, Your
My
Honor.
apologies. Please.
No, The witness is a sergeant detective within the street crimes unit within the Unified Police Department. She works with people every single day. And she was later saying in her statement how she was calling out to the defense in this quote, pretending, to which she said he replied in to corroborate her assumption.
I'm gonna stand by how I don't see how that adds up.
With all due respect, that rebuttal was very elaborate and confusing. Could you simplify that rebuttal and give it to me one more time? Take a minute to formulate it if you need. Take a breath if you need.
As the witness was stating in her statement, she not only called him out, she also got an affirmative from the defendant after doing so.
All right. I'm gonna allow this response to continue, but let's not get into the realm of narrative. Just stick to things which you can explain and confirm.
Narrative.
It'll be fine.
What if it's not?
You may continue,
be
Sergeant
fine.
Detective.
So I would call him out
What if it
on
is?
the pretending of being very upset, and he would go back to his normal tone of voice, saying you're right, and that it is what he wants to actually happen.
So you stated that you had received further phone calls and text messages beyond the two that had been discussed already. What topics were discussed in these?
Can you elaborate the question? I'm confused.
What topics were discussed in those phone calls and text messages that we hadn't discussed already, or hadn't questioned already?
The text messages, it would be a back and forth where he would send me texts of either photographs of cats holding knives to dog's throat, or just gifs of cats, and then stating that I'm the cat now, and referencing not liking canines.
Hey, Harvey.
Okay. Did you receive any further communication from the defendant after he was apprehended?
Yes, I received 2 phone calls from him from Bolingbroke Penitentiary.
What was talked about?
The first phone call, he was stating that he was transitioning well into Bolingbroke Penitentiary, that he was gaining friends, and those friends would help him make sure he doesn't get harmed due to all the people wanting to hurt him. The second phone call was him starting off by pretending to be a new person that was holding a bunch of people captive with a knife, and then he was like, I got you, Hayes. I hate April 1st. Stupid holiday.
Did the defendant speak at all about his time in prison?
He spoke about making a new group called the Frownies, asked if I wanted to join.
Objection. Non-responsive. She said time in prison. I'm not sure what forming a group or anything like that has to do with the question.
Rebuttal.
I'm simply asking you what sort of things that he was talking about when he was doing it in prison. I believe the witness was elaborating on that.
All right, I'm going to overrule the objection. Just continue.
He stated that he was forming a group in prison of the Frownies and asked if I wanted to join. I was later then confirmed this fact by, at the time, Warden Ethan Maxwell, that a group called the Frownies were indeed starting to form.
Objection
in
hearsay.
Penitentiary.
Is Warden Maxwell called as a witness?
That is a very good objection. Is Warden Maxwell called as a witness?
No rebuttal, Your Honor.
All right, is that question withdrawn?
No, Your Honor. Could we ask the witness to refrain from hearsay?
Yes. The witness is to refrain from speaking on behalf of anyone who cannot be called to be cross-examined. Is that clear, Detective Sergeant Hayes?
Yes, sir.
All right. You may rephrase your answer without speaking for the absent warden.
He was making a group called the Frownies with his friends. He then stated that I could join and that he became interested in becoming a therapist in Bolingbroke Penitentiary, and that this was his second chance to turn over a new leaf.
Finally, I want to talk about the people's W and X. I'll wait for Your Honor to pull those up.
All right, proceed.
You received a report from one Hannah Baker, who unfortunately cannot be here this evening due to her passing. Can you assert that the information written in this report is an accurate retelling of the conversation you had with Miss Baker?
I wholeheartedly state that this documentation that I took was to every word that I possibly could from Hannah Baker's statements. The only words or statements that were ignored were either fluff or retelling of statements that Miss Baker had stated.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Floor is yours. Defense may cross-examine the witness.
Okay, let's travel back to the beginning of your testimony when counsel was asking you regarding the initial phone call, shall we? Okay. Regarding this phone call, was this an anonymous call?
Yes, it was.
Was this phone call recorded?
No, it was not.
So it's safe to assume if it wasn't recorded, there's no recording in evidence. Is that correct?
We do not use recording in evidence due to this being a two-party state and me having to make sure that the second party is well aware that it is being recorded.
Okay, sure. So, in your initial responses to these questions, you said that you recognized the defendant due to his vocal inflections and sound. Is that correct?
I spoke at length with the defendant for multiple hours, so I am very aware of how he sounds.
So you voice ID'd the defendant. Is that correct?
When he was standing in front of me and talking to me.
Over the phone. Did you voice ID the defendant over the phone?
A rebuttal? Or are we good to proceed?
I'm simply making sure that the defense is ready for us to proceed.
Defense?
With the rebuttal.
I have to use the bathroom.
Okay.
All right, let me hear your rebuttal.
I'm sorry. Oh, defense or plaintiff, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
You just asked to toss an entire testimony, basically, and I am hearing from the prosecution what their argument against that is. Mr. Griswoldstein.
Got it.
We've already established within this court case that referencing both calls known and unknown through questioning has provided sufficient evidence to link them. We are also planning and happy to question in redirect to firmly establish that beyond a reasonable doubt that these phone calls were made by the same individual.
All right.
Rebuttal.
No. No. Mr. Griswoldstein, I'm going to say this to you only one more time. If you wish to cross-examine the witness and ask how she is so familiar with the defendant and is certain that she spoke to the same person on different occasions and wish to poke holes in the tenacity of those claims, that is your job as an attorney. I'm not going to be throwing out what she has testified already based off of a motion to strike on any grounds that have not been explored and exhausted through examination. So go ahead and ask your questions if you doubt the tenacity of what she has said. But in the meantime, I am denying your motion. The rebuttal is upheld.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Stout. I'm going to cut you off if you've made your point, because we do have other cases on the docket tonight. So any unnecessary time, I'm going to overrule that objection. It was mentioned about him wanting to become a police officer. I think that's within the scope. Let's proceed.
Did you have received any or contact the dispatchers to see if they received any communication from this individual or any unnamed individuals about joining the police department?
There are a lot of people that attempt to contact dispatchers on wanting to join the police department. From my knowledge, they do not document every single person that comes into the police department asking for the ability or knowledge to apply to the PD. I asked the people that had the active records and documentation.
Okay.
From my knowledge, they do not document.
Seems like it's still good.
Wait, you guys need a food run? All right, I'll be back. See, me almost ran there, but I stopped myself.
When you spoke about taking Ms. Baker's... Oh, sorry, Your Honor. I didn't realize you were back.
Give me a minute. I'm consulting with the... Are you Chief Judge yet? I'm consulting with the Chief Judge. Just give me one moment and we'll proceed.
Wait, if we're all here, is anyone at the cafe?
Prosecution, how many more witnesses do you have?
Closed.
Oh yeah, the cafe's closed. I'll put up a sign. 2 more after this person?
He's going to put up a sign right now.
Wait, I'll go check.
I can't hear y'all.
Yes, 2 more after this person.
How many witnesses do you have, defense?
One moment, Yana.
Are you...
Maybe they'll strike us? They strike us?
They're not going to strike us. They can't. They'll throw the whole court case.
I mean, they haven't even asked him about stuff.
Defense has no witnesses.
All right, thank you.
They only talked about a phone call.
All right, I'm sorry. I just needed to consult with the Chief Judge about some scheduling scheduling anticipations we may have if this runs long. So you may proceed, defense.
Senior detective, is that correct, ma'am?
Sergeant detective.
Sergeant detective, I apologize. Sergeant detective, could you describe Ms. Baker when she was giving you these statements?
Her clothing or her mental state?
Let's start with her appearance, and I'll ask another question following.
Objection
Occasion-
relevance?
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal. Asking about someone's appearance is a good foray into the next question, which will be going into the character of the individual in question.
All right, I'll hear this. You may renew the objection based on the next question if the prosecution wishes, but I'll hear the answer to this question.
Shoulder length, blonde hair, Caucasian female. She wore makeup sometimes. Generally dressed in street clothing.
Objection unresponsive. I asked specifically about when she was giving the statement, not her general appearance.
I am unclear of the question. Can you expand on it? Because it made it sound like you were asking for her appearance.
I wish to know what Ms. Baker looked like while she was giving you the statement.
That's what she looked like.
She looked like she was sometimes wearing makeup?
I don't know exactly 100% if she's wearing makeup. At the
Objection
time.
badgering?
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that. Just let the witness answer the question. I don't see how she's not answering the question about her appearance. Stop nitpicking choice of words. Let's get this moving.
Apologies, I'll move on. Could you explain Ms. Baker's mental state when giving these statements? Or hypothesize?
Objection, opinion of a layperson?
She's being treated
no,
as a
no,
doctor.
no. We're not going to have you using that same objection that's been shut down from them a number of times. Detective Sergeant, not a layperson. Overruled.
Your Honor, if I may.
All right.
The mental state of someone would be for someone who is a psychiatrist or a psychologist, not a detective sergeant.
May I rebut?
All right. Well, you would want to pick a different objection then. But you may rebut.
The prosecution is alleging that the Ms. Hayes could know the mental state and the speech patterns, as well as the intention behind the speech patterns of the person she was talking to on the phone. I would assume she would be able to do the same with someone she is talking to in person.
Well, except that we did not admit to the record any of those assumptions. We actually sustained those objections. So, yeah. Anything else?
Objection, speculation, then.
All right, sustained. Rephrase your question.
I'll withdraw.
Very well.
No further questions.
All right, is there any redirect for Detective Sergeant Hayes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, sorry.
Just two more, Sergeant Detective. Can you assert that a written application is the only way to formally apply to the police department here in Los Santos?
Yes, a written application is the only way that the general public can. There are some unique exceptions, at which point they are directly hired on by high command.
And who would receive these written applications?
They would go to all the FTIs in the P&T program, at which point Lieutenant Matthew Espinoz and Captain Anita May would have complete access to each application.
All right, and then I want to go back to the previous questions from the defendant, the defense rather, regarding the unknown phone calls and the known phone call. Were there any topics or otherwise continuous topics of discussion that were throughout these phone calls?
Objection, vague and compound.
I'm happy to reword, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead then.
Were there any topics that connected these known and unknown phone calls?
Yes. So for 3 of the phone calls, there would be the topic of Mr. Hudson, to the point where the caller got upset over the fact that I kept bringing him up, as well as them bringing him up themselves when they said that I would get a text message from Mr. Hudson.
Yeah, objection, Your Honor. Scope. During original counsel's test or prosecution questioning, there were only specific phone calls made. Prosecution is now asking about questions and phone calls made throughout the course of the time that were not originally spoken about during testimony.
Rebuttal?
Yes.
We specifically asked about every phone call and text message that the witness received from the defendant.
Defense, do you have any reason to believe, other than your assumption, that this phone call was not addressed previously? Do you have anything to
aside from the fact that
substantiate that claim?
Evidence has not been presented to show the phone call history? None.
I'm pretty sure that that phone call history was brought into focus.
I was never shown the specific piece of evidence, Your Honor. I just would like to know where that is.
Prosecution, just to confirm, did you bring that to my attention? I was brought
Yes,
a
Your
phone
Honor.
call history. Is that the one that they are referring to?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you direct them to that once again so that we can proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Happy. Specifically, the people's Sierra and Victor.
All right, proceed.
Hmm.
Objection is overruled if you didn't know that already.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did any of these phone calls reference, did any of these known phone calls reference the unknown phone calls?
They didn't specifically reference the unknown phone calls. The topics would just be this very similar about how he's very busy and having to manage all the different things that they're doing, wanting to make an explosion.
That is all, Your Honor.
All right, very well. Hayes, you may step down. Does the defense intend to recall Sergeant Detective Hayes to the stand?
We will mark the detective for recall, or reserve the right, Your Honor.
So noted. Detective Hayes, you will be recalled by the defense for further questioning.
Your Honor, may we approach before the next witness is called?
All right, sidebar. I also need an IFAC and a hamburger. Let's go.
My heart's beating so fast.
Yeah, I got food coming.
I already got food.
Little
It'll be fine.
fucking
It'll be
UwU
fine.
army.
Trust. Just take your time. Breathe. You've got this.
What's it?
Just breathe and be focused, and that's it. Okay.
How you doing, Judge
Trust
Mate?
yourself and trust the process.
I stacked them.
Shut up, Maze.
Okay.
Nobody asked for you to talk.
Well, I was just saying hello.
Let me just take care of myself real quick, and then we can go with the song.
What?
All right,
Shelby?
I'm thinking about doing it to Grizz too.
Alright.
You need anything to eat or drink? You gonna join us for metal detecting?
Do you need anything?
They call me next. Just
No, I'm
give me like
talking
2
to my-
minutes.
Your Honor, I got a lot of food. We can go whenever. I like her more than you.
Yeah, we can go whenever.
Well, that's fair.
I don't care when we go.
She is nice. Oh, her workers now.
Misa?
She put me on retainer too.
I'm good whenever.
Alright.
We all want to go now.
Antonio.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank. Glad you're around.
I think I could be a good UwU.
He was too busy working at UwU.
Like, oh my god, welcome to UwU Cafe, where we make everything so nice and like.
It should be over pretty soon. It's just the jaywalking thing.
Betcha.
Ah!
Okay, I have slushies.
Harvey, be careful.
Nice one. Sorry. Trying to hold Scud's hair in the back.
Ash, how'd those two dumbasses that you hired earlier work
Am I
out?
supposed to be compassionate?
Which one?
Trico.
Tricone and fuck, what was the other guy?
He's also
I'm sure
wearing
it
no
started
shirt,
with an
so
M.
I don't think he'll be here for too long.
Did it?
Fuck, maybe it didn't. No, Chris. Chris, that's it. Chris M something. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him again.
Well, you ever want me down to do interviews again, I'm in.
Thank you very
Make
much.
them sweat.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy in court who doesn't silence his phone.
All right. Are we prepared to proceed?
Defense is ready.
Prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
All right. Prosecution, please call your next witness to be sworn in.
Prosecution would like to bring Ash Ketchup to the stand.
All right. Ash Ketchup, please approach the witness stand to be sworn in by Judge Grayson.
You got this. You got.
Too nervous.
Too nervous.
Yeah. We'll just need a few minutes, Your Honor. She just had a headache.
All right, very
Yeah.
well. Unless you want to call another witness first,
She learns from the best. You gotta face out at the right time.
I'd rather not call a recess. So if you want
Hell
to call
yeah.
another witness in the
Weird.
meantime,
Kind of
I would appreciate that.
Prosecution will call Reggie White.
Call that the Seaside phase.
All right, Judge, the Honorable Judge
Seaside
Reggie Might,
face.
please approach the
Yup.
witness stand to be sworn in.
You know what's the next level?
What?
Antonio face. You face out
Disappear
for
for a month. And you come back and said, I'll be around
Okay,
tomorrow.
Mr. Might, can you raise your left hand for me?
So, was she sitting in the UwU cafe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
maybe.
Was she?
Yeah,
Was
I
she
think so.
carried it? Okay, that makes
Mr. Might, can you raise
Well,
your
no,
left
she
hand for
walked
me?
here. But she was sitting at the cafe at one point.
He is raising it, Grayson.
Okay, thank you.
And it was like my dad.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give this court today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
She
but
just
the
really
truth
wanted
under
to
the
make
pains
sure
and penalties
people
of
were
perjury?
working.
So help you airborne.
I do.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
As a lawyer, because would you go
Thank
pick
you.
her up?
Prosecution,
pick
your
her up.
witness.
So now we have an all captains like girls, team. Oh hell yeah! I'm pretty
How did
sure
you
this
first
is
come
what
into
it is.
contact with the defendant?
Oh man, you're doing great.
I was made aware. that
Can't
there
believe
was
she
a
just
copycat
teleported.
killer that was imitating Jasper Saxon that I have a long history with.
Espinosa's like, I really hate this.
That's so funny.
And how did the defendant identify himself to you?
The name he used was Jasper.
Yeah. Oh, at least the judge got that out,
Were there any other names that he used with you?
There was a few other names that he mentioned throughout the lengthy phone calls that we'd had between each other, but Jasper was the primary one that he used to identify himself.
And how did you primarily communicate with the defendant?
Initially, it was unknown number calls, and eventually it went to him using his own phone number to contact myself.
Nice God.
When you spoke with him,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
what
about.
did you discuss?
Ash, they were going to call you, but they've moved on to.
We had lots of lengthy discussions. Throughout the calls, the general nature was about harming people that were close to me in an attempt to destroy my mental state. He was also mentioning about hurting other people in the city, things that he was planning to do to people, and we also spoke about previous tapes for the deceased Jasper Saxon.
Did these threats of harm ever come true?
Yes, he kidnapped and harmed Ash and displayed it on a video whilst taunting me the whole time.
I would just like to take a moment of pause while we reflect on that answer, if that's possible, Your Honor.
Why?
Is this video he's talking about submitted in evidence? I just want to confirm from the prosecution.
Yes.
Right. Formulate it
Okay.
into an objection. Don't ask for a moment of silence, Mr. Griswoldstein. I don't know what that means.
Apologies, Your Honor. I just needed a moment of pause. The objection was I wanted to confirm with the prosecution. It was in evidence. They agreed. If you could just point me to that, please.
It is the People's Lima.
And within People's Lima, which evidence item?
Prosecution.
It is, sorry, I was just confirming it. 3901 Ash Ketchup twat dash video.
What's your source of this evidence, prosecution?
It was posted on Twitter.
Can you not cross out?
Does the actual tweet itself that shows that video included on Twitter exist in this evidence?
Yes, it's the piece of evidence directly above it.
Okay, we're satisfied for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griswoldstein. May we proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please do.
You also mentioned that there was threats to yourself, or threats of harm to yourself as well. Did these come true?
Yes. Shortly before Christmas, I was jumping around on my BMX bike over the wall at UwU car park. Silver and color bison pulled up. The driver of the bison was a lone occupant. Steps out in a Bugstars uniform, pulls a knife on myself, and it was the defendant who was wearing a black beard at the time. From there, he forced me into the vehicle and drove me towards the airport. We had a bit of a discussion on the way there, and he injected me and I fell asleep.
Did you contact the defendant at all that day before you were kidnapped?
I did.
Did he take anything from you when he kidnapped you?
There was a shank on myself, and there was also an ID that was given
I'd like
me.
to object a second. Hold on a second. We'll let this go. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Anyway, as I was saying, there was a shank on myself as well as an ID.
They are
was
giving that
given to
lawyer
me by
like
Detective Hayes. The reason that there was a call that day was because I was planning to give that ID to the defendant, where PD were aware, specifically Matthew Espinosa, were aware of the said meeting that was supposed to be happening.
they're
Do
giving the
you
lawyer a
own the
lot of
name
shit
on
considering
that
they just
ID that
dropped
was
this
given to
whole
you by
fucking
Sergeant
case on him.
Detective
You know.
Hayes?
Was an Anthony Moriarty, I think I'm saying it right. Most notable thing on the ID was that they were over 99 years old, which is something that the defendant mentioned to me in another phone call.
The prosecution would like to draw attention to the people's papa, and specifically the ID listed within that raid receipt.
All right, people's P is in Papa. Got it.
You mentioned that you were kidnapped. How long were you kidnapped?
I think it was about 3 days.
Were you well taken care of throughout that time?
Definitely not. And throughout that time, I was beaten, cut. Eventually had my mouth sewn shut because I wouldn't give information to the defendant about people that are close to me.
And were you fed?
Because I was drugged a lot of the times, I don't remember whether or not if I was asleep, he like force fed me or something like that. But while I was conscious and alert, no.
During this time, did you see any other individuals in this room?
There was one person in the room. At that time, I didn't know exactly who that was. I did find out later on from the defendant, but the person that was in the room was wearing a green Christmas pudding hat. He was also drugged several times and bound.
Prosecution would like to bring attention to the People's Gulf. This is the same evidence that we brought attention to, the evidence, the photo from the phone.
All right, very well.
In the video of your attack on the evidence, sorry, a second, Your Honor, let me take a drink of water. In the video of your attack from the People's Gulf 31939, the narrator says, quote, "Take it easy, you're probably groggy. Benzos will do that to you." What is he referring to?
What he's referring to there is the several times that he injected me to put me to sleep and to keep me restrained, being able to fight back.
I would like to object to speculation as to how the witness knows benzos were actually injected into him. Is there a medical report of a blood test that confirms what exactly was injected? If there is,
all right, stop. He's not testifying as to what he was injected with. He's testifying to what the defendant supposedly said to him. Unless I'm mistaken, is that accurate, prosecution?
That's what I asked, Your Honor.
All right. Objection is overruled.
Prosecution would also like to bring attention to the People's Gulf, specifically evidence 31939, syringe P2. Do you have that, Your Honor?
Yes. The syringe. Proceed.
This is just. This court case should have had a lot of time allotted
Did
to
Chris
it.
talk, or did he just make a whole heap of fucking noises? And I just can't hear shit.
We have nothing, Your Honor. They can continue. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Griswoldstein. Please proceed with the questioning. The syringe noted from the evidence. We're proceeding from there.
Now they have to rush.
Where were you found
Jasper
after
doesn't
your
have
attack?
like a proper lawyer. So the defense is really sloppy. The prosecution
That
getting flustered for
that
no
one I
reason.
only know specifically from watching the video because I remember waking up in what is the metro tunnels. There's a construction site there where I was tied up and brutally attacked.
Do you remember at all being transported there to the metro tunnels?
No, I only remember waking up and being tied to, I think it was a trolley jack thing that you move boxes with.
Prosecution would like to bring attention to those Gulf, specifically evidence 31939, scene P1 in the image that is attached to that evidence.
Is that the syringe again, or
No, it is the scene photo,
Syringe?
Your Honor.
the scene photo? Scene
Scene
P1, syringe phone. Am I looking at the right one? There's a lot that I have open. Okay. Which one was that? Golf?
A firm, Your Honor. It's specifically labeled as, scene P1, the syringe and the phone. Whereas the previous evidence that we brought attention to was specifically just the syringe. This one is the syringe and phone.
Remember,
All right.
trust the
Yep.
process.
Well, I have that. Yep.
Long breaths, okay? Just breathe.
Oh, you know,
You'll be fine.
nothing yet besides higher.
Can you briefly explain what happened to you in the metro tunnels?
That is something that I try and push out of my brain, but for the courts, I was attacked with several tools. Had my mouth sewn shut, had a nail gun used on me. There was a couple of screwdrivers that were used as well. Puncturing my arteries.
I'm sorry that happened to you. You mentioned in a previous question that Miss Ketchup had been attacked. Can you speak further to this and elaborate?
The defendant called me and asked me if I am ready to have my heart ripped out, as he'd been taunting me several times before, trying to break me mentally by getting close to someone and hurting them. He ended up kidnapping Ash in Grapeseed and taunted me for the days that he had her captive. Basically flaunting that I am helpless to this. And eventually he attacked her and sent me the video directly. The first person to get this video, and this happened in Grapeseed. Not in Grapeseed, sorry, in Polito, at the chicken factory, where he hung her from a rope and stabbed her with a machete.
Prior to that day, had the defendants ever spoken about harming her in any way?
a lot of times. And he would tell me different ways that he was going to do it. And then eventually told me that I would find her the same way that he found his sister Abigail.
Did the defendant ever contact you about Miss Ketchup when she was missing?
Yeah, lots of times. Pleaded with him to at least leave the radio that she had on her, near her and on, so she can at least hear me talk while we're trying to search for her. He eventually allowed her to speak on the radio to me, where she was crying for help and saying how scared she is and that she just wants to go home. I eventually, after talking to her for a bit, was cut off by the defendant, where he continued to taunt me while I looked around the city trying to find her. Specifically about taunting me for the video that he was going to create of her.
The prosecution would like to bring attention to evidence, the People's Kilo, both pieces of evidence that are labeled tech records, Part 1 and Part 2.
All right, go ahead.
Mentioned that the defendant sent you a video. Did he send this freely?
He wasn't forced to send it or anything like that, but in an attempt to get me to, let me rephrase. He mentioned several times that he was just going to send it out to the public, so there would be a wild scramble to find her, and if I wanted to have first release, that I need to pay him for it.
And did you?
I ended up sending him $2,500 in an attempt to secure it first, as I've been working heavily with Detective Hayes and Detective Flop, so that we can get Ash the help that she needs immediately, unhindered by the public.
Prosecution would like to bring attention to the People's Kilo, evidence 38639, specifically the bank account transfer from Reggie Might to Alvin Kowal. Or as it's listed in the report, quote, Jasper, unquote.
Just a moment, I'm still looking for. All right, in Kilo, I'm not seeing any bank transfer listed in the evidence. Is it listed somewhere else in the report, or is it in the evidence? I'm looking at the evidence.
If I believe, Your Honor, this may be in. Remember how we mentioned the MDW acting up?
Yes.
So this is currently listed on that report, and it may have gotten lost whenever we try to. What's sort of like export it? We can send it directly to that email chain if you'd like.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Griswoldstein is going to have something to say about this, so let's have a pause for the defense.
Ash? I'll be back. You got this if you go up there, Ash, okay?
Where are you going?
Huh?
Where are you going?
I'm grabbing something I need. Really quick.
Okay.
Coming back. It'll be like 2 minutes.
All right, I'm going to call for a sidebar.
Okay, Ash, so when you go up there, just focus on one thing.
Now that we've sidebarred,
pick
I'm gonna be
whatever.
a scumbag and ask for an ice pack.
Okay. Pick whatever you have. Just focus on it and listen
got
and
food?
answer. Okay.
You need
Thank
food?
Taylor, come with me.
No,
Yeah.
I'm good.
You want to look at Reggie. You want to look at your card in your hand. Just stay focused, okay?
You want me to go dress up as Reggie again so there's two of us?
I'm sure that will be needed.
Or I could go dress like you so you can see reflection standing in the crowd.
Skud.
No.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Is it quiet out there, Rip?
Quiet for a little bit. We're gonna have 40 people jump to their deaths in 30 minutes.
Why?
A Rex event.
Maybe I'll go sign on duty for that.
Why are you standing in front
They're very odd, Spitty.
Who, me? Wait, I'm on the side.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Okay, what about now?
It's better.
It just. I think Eggy was. I think it was Eggy who said this, but. It feels like the prosecution was just expecting an easy slam dunk, so they didn't put enough work into it. The whole thing is kind of a shit show, to be honest. Also, as far as I know, Odessa isn't a lawyer. So I don't know why the hell she's leading one of the bigger cases. It's a joke, dude. The poor defense attorney, man. Apparently, all of the lawyers refused to work with Jasper. So he had to defend himself, which is not what's supposed to happen. So the court should have provided him with an attorney, but they didn't. And so, like, midway through the court case, they just grabbed an attorney out of the crowd and assigned them to him. And that attorney is trying their fucking best, but, like...
Queasy, I shotgun a ginger ale. Settles the tummy right up.
He didn't have any time to prep or do any research or anything. And then Odessa's out here giggling half the time and heavy sighing like they're over it the other half of the time.
Hold on, maybe go see if I can find a ginger ale. Be right back. Oh shit.
Okay.
Are we good to continue, Your Honor?
Absolutely. We're talking
Did you
about the
feel
bank transfer.
Did you feel forced or threatened to send money to the defendant?
He stated if I didn't, that he was going to release it to the general public in an effort to get the city to scramble for Arch. So if I didn't give him the money, he was going to post that publicly.
Prior to your kidnapping or miscatch-ups, do you recall any time the defendant was following or contacting you?
It was throughout the whole time that he was walking freely through the city. The defendant contacted me many times.
Sorry, no ginger ale.
As I said before, sometimes from unknown numbers, other times from his own phone number. And a lot of these phone calls were making mentions of him watching me and what I'm doing, and people around me and trying to pry on who people are. The
Yeah,
times
dude,
that
it's-
he went to UwU to watch me, and then I'd walk past him and he'd walk past me 8 times in one day. There's many times where he eluded me because he was in disguise, but he still said that he had been very close to me.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, you may cross-examine the witness, Mr. Griswoldstein.
Okay, Judge Might, how are we doing today?
Gravity of this case, you know, is not much of a question.
Understood. You mentioned calls with the defendant initially, back when your testimony first started, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Were any of these calls anonymous?
As I stated before, there were unknown phone calls. from him.
And how did you-
Objection asked and answered.
I never asked that.
Any response to that by the prosecution?
It was confirmed with the prosecution. The prosecution asked whether these phones were known or unknown.
Okay. I'd rebut with we're talking about multiple phone calls here. I just want to ensure and clarify that maybe every single one was anonymous or some weren't, and just get to the bottom of that quickly.
It's been gone over. Overruled. Proceed. Or sustained. Proceed.
Okay. During the scene, you were
Yeah, the
mentioning
poor
a
dude's
testimony
doing his
where
best.
you were kidnapped. We're going to recollect to there. You mentioned it was a bearded individual who kidnapped you?
Correct. It was a bearded individual that identified himself as Jasper.
Okay. Aside from this individual allegedly self-identifying, were you able to identify this individual by any way?
That was the first time that I'd been face to face with the defendant.
Could you describe the beard of the individual?
A black beard.
Was this
Objection relevance?
Well, Your Honor, some beards are barely facial stubble, and some beards are whole, full-on Santa Claus beards that can pretty much cover the majority of someone's facial features. And I just want to get to that.
Point taken. Point taken. Anything, any further response from the prosecution?
It is not difficult to shave off a beard or to grow one.
That's not an argument.
All right. No back and forth. I'm going to overrule the objection. I don't care. Just talk about the beard, but move on quickly.
Okay. Does the beard you witnessed in that incident of your kidnapping match the defendant's beard today?
In color, yes. Length, no.
Okay. You also mentioned being injected in your testimony. Did you witness the individual inject you? Like, straight on?
Really trying.
There was only 2 of us inside the Bison. I was in the front passenger seat. He was in the driver's seat. He leant over and injected me in the side of the neck. So yes, I did.
And again, every time Odessa like objects to doing so, like dismissively, almost offended. Or is laughing half the time. It's really making me
I do have
uncomfortable.
one more. We do have some more questions, but okay.
Oh, it's that to me.
What?
All right.
The poor dude is playing massive catch up, dude.
Mr. Reggie Might, this Bugstar's uniform, could you explain it further?
Did you want me to talk about its color?
I mean, Bugstar's uniform. More so, any. Was there a mask involved? Was there a hat involved? Was there
Objection compound?
Okay.
He can withdraw.
No, sustained.
All right, Reggie Might, in this Bugstar's
Yes, sir.
uniform, was he wearing a mask?
The individual was wearing a red Bugstar jumpsuit. Looked like a man with feeble stature. He had no mask on, he had a lengthy beard, and he did have a hat on as well.
Or was this hat facing forwards, covering his face, or backwards?
Unfortunately, at that point in time, I didn't pay too much attention to his hat as he had a knife out to my throat.
Understood. And you said that you were injected a majority of the time, correct?
That is correct.
Now, stating that there was someone else in the room, were you under the influence at that point?
As stated before in my previous testimony, when I was alert and conscious is when I noticed and I spoke about those times. I noticed an individual with a pudding hat on, and those were also the times that you, the defendant, were talking to me and questioning me.
And during the actual attack, when the situation took place, were you under the influence of what was in the syringe?
I had been injected previously and I was awakening from that. Funnily enough, that when you get harmed, your body tends to make you a lot more alert. A thing called adrenaline helps you bypass a lot of the things that a benzo could do. So yes, I was cognitive when I was being attacked.
So you would say that, or would you say rather, that during this attack you could 100% positively identify the attacker?
It's a very vague question in itself, Alvin, because that attacker was also wearing things on their face. So for me to be able to identify that person, other than my knowledge of
Objection, non-responsive. Please answer the question.
Again, it is a vague question in its own.
How
would you like me to identify someone masked?
Hang on. I have the floor. The witness does not get to object to the question. We have an objection on the floor that you are non-responsive. I'm going to sustain that objection. You may re-answer the question as asked of you, not your opinion of the question.
Ask the question again.
During the attack, could you positively identify the attacker?
The words that he used and the sentences in those words and the reference made, there's no doubt in my mind who that person was.
Objection, that's a vague answer, non-responsive. That's not a yes or no to positively identifying the attacker.
I believe he said he could, in his own estimation, positively identify him based on those specific things. So I'm overruling the objection. I will weigh upon the tenacity of that response accordingly. Move on.
I mean, you have any other further questions? I think that's all I wanted to focus on.
No further. Mark for recall.
All right. Judge Might, you know what marked for recall means. Move it along.
Yeah, we've got redirect, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did the defendant ever call you about your attack after it had happened?
Oh yes, he taunted me several times about it.
He's spoon feeding the
These calls
prosecution
from
too.
his own phone number?
Correct.
And my final question, Judge Might. Would you assert that beards can grow and change length?
With my experience being a male that does have facial hair, yes, I do need to trim mine back to keep it at the length that it is.
No further questions.
All right, again, Judge Might, you are marked for recall. Step down.
Thank you, Judge Holden.
I could feel Reggie wanting to tear her apart for that fucking question.
All right, does the prosecution have any further witnesses? I believe you have Ash Ketchup, who's
That is correct,
hopefully
Your
with
Honor.
us. All right, Ash Ketchup,
You got this.
approach the
Just
stand to be sworn in, please.
Remember to point if you need to.
What if I don't? But what if I don't?
Just point if you need.
They're taking 30 more people for the skydive thing.
No, Jesus. Maybe
Red Garage.
All right,
say the word,
Ash
I will
Ketchup,
go sign
do you
on
swear
deal.
to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you airborne?
Yes.
You're sworn in. Prosecution, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Ash.
Fuck, look.
How did you first come into contact with the defendant?
He called me from an unknown number last year.
What name did he begin using?
Jasper.
How did the defendant primarily contact you?
He called me with unknown numbers on the phone.
In those phone calls, did he ever use any other names?
Not in the unknown phone number calls.
The prosecution would like to bring attention to a few pieces of evidence, Your Honor. There's going to be a couple. It's going to be the people's RSTUNV. They're all going to be pieces of evidence regarding phone calls and text messages.
Okay, those have all already come up, yes?
I believe so, Your Honor. I'm just clarifying.
All right, I already have those open. Proceed.
Okay. Ash, what was said during these conversations?
Told me how he was gonna hurt people. He said he had a list and we were on it. But also he said that he took us off it and well, he said a lot of different things. It was confusing. There was a lot of calls over a long time, and he said he didn't want to hurt me, and that he was worried. But he said he would set Tate free, but he asked if we were friends, and he said he wouldn't lie, and then eventually he said we should play a game, and then eventually we were playing a game of Mousetrap.
Did he ever go into detail about what Mousetrap was?
At one point, he said that we were both trying to catch each other.
Okay. And during these phone calls, could you give a rough estimate as to how long they were?
They went anywhere from a few minutes to much longer, to maybe 40 minutes, an hour at the most, and not longer than that.
Prior to being taken, did you ever meet the defendant in person?
Yes.
What happened when he met you in person?
He called me from a normal phone number. And he changed his voice. He sounded different, and he said his name was Alfred, and he wanted a job interview, and we agreed to meet at a jail so he could have the interview. And I didn't know it was him until after I left, and he called me, and he was taunting. He said that the game of Mousetrap, it wouldn't have been so hard after all, and he told me I should be careful, and hung up the phone.
Did this application seem genuine?
Up until he called, yeah.
How did these interactions make you feel?
I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I didn't realize it was him, and I went into a panic.
And did you fear that your friends and loved ones would possibly come to fruition?
Yeah.
Could you elaborate?
He said in the phone that he was gonna hurt people, and he wanted ideas for how to hurt them, and he hurt Reggie.
On December 22nd, you reported that Reggie Might had been kidnapped. How did you learn about his kidnapping?
I was at the cafe with Reggie, and I went inside, and he was outside, and then I came back, and he wasn't there anymore. And I tried to call him, and he didn't answer, and I tried the radio, and he didn't answer, and I looked around, and after a while, I got a phone call from an unknown number, and it was Jasper, and he said he caught his prize buck, and he said he was gonna cut him, give him back piece by piece. He said he wanted to recreate Reggie's favorite cassette tape, that he'd be at the construction site.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to bring attention to the People's F, report number 32383.
Go ahead.
How did you learn of Reggie Might being found on December 25th?
I was the one who found him. I got a call from Jasper, and he said something about tunnels and an escalator and construction, and I went down in the tunnel on the highway, and he was down there, and he was on the ground.
Was this a long or a short phone call with the defendant?
It was short.
Do you remember? Do you remember how long that phone call was?
Just a few minutes, I think.
You also stated that you feared for your own life. Did this come true as well?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
I got a call from an unknown number, and the person had a deep voice, and they said that we saw an enemy, and we're both on his list. And they had information on where he was, and they wanted us to work together to catch him. And they asked me to meet at the airport at Grapeseed. And when I drove his motorbike, and when I got there, then there was a guy already there, and he had a big coat and a skeleton mask, and I got off the bike and I said hello to him, and he took off his mask and he pulled out a knife and he stabbed me in the stomach, and I fell and I blacked in and had and he carried me out of across a field.
Sorry.
Falling asleep in court?
I
Oh,
woke
yeah,
up
I was
and
thinking real hard
tied
about
up
a
in the
drink.
dark room.
Okay.
He said,
Case sounds
he
serious.
said, mousetrap.
I need some caffeine.
How long has this been going on for?
We just got here.
Oh, okay.
The prosecution would like to bring up report the People's M
Fucking
report
randos.
number 39115. To clarify for the court, you were kidnapped from the Grapeseed airfield.
Miss Ketchup.
Sorry, I missed it. If you said a question, I missed it. I'm sorry.
No, you were perfectly fine. If you need a minute, you let me know.
This is why I'm sorry.
The prosecution was bringing up the People's M report number 39115. And I
Yeah,
had
we
asked.
got that. Just
Okay.
Yeah, just repeat the question.
Understood, Your Honor. To clarify for the court today, you were kidnapped from Grapeseed Airport.
Yeah, in the big building.
When you say the big building, are you referring to the hangar?
It, you know,
How would you describe the quality of the living conditions in which you were kept in?
it was dark and it was scary. It was a small dark room and there was no windows and there was a bed and a few other bits of furniture and it was dark and scary.
Would you say that you were well taken care of in this place?
No, Bunny was scared too.
Do you remember if he fed you?
No, he said he wanted me to stay awake so I wouldn't fight back. So he wouldn't give me anything. He laughed about it.
When he attacked you in the People's M, he likens you to an Abigail. Was this the only time he mentions this woman?
No, he mentioned her a few times, and he said that they used to play games, him and Abigail, and that's why we started off with hide and seek tag and then mousetrap because those games.
Did the defendant ever state who Abigail was?
Yeah, he said she was sister.
I can't find this thing that this any references to Abigail.
It doesn't matter. It's just irrelevant.
Okay. No more questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Go ahead, defense.
Hey, Miss Ketchup. Initially, when your testimony started, you mentioned a phone call from, quote, what you alleged to be the defendant, anonymous number. However, it was never asked why you believe this anonymous phone call was the defendant from you. Could you answer that for us?
Again, it's established.
Objection vague?
Literally, she was talking about she received a phone call. It was an anonymous number, and goes on in her testimony. You assert that these calls are from the defendant. And I want to know why she believed that.
All right, Mr. Grizz, you do not need to explain that. Just ask your question, and if it's been asked and answered, the prosecution will object. Ask the question.
Why did you believe the anonymous phone call to you was from the defendant that stands before you today?
He introduced himself. I didn't know who he was. He told me.
He introduced himself over the phone, Miss Ketchup?
Yes.
And what did this person introduce themselves as over the phone from the anonymous number?
That's Jasper.
Okay. When you learned about the Reggie kidnapping, as you were saying, you said you knew because you went inside and he wasn't there anymore. Then you received a phone call about a prize buck. Aside from coming out, not seeing Reggie, and receiving the phone call at the prize buck at that time, why did you believe the defendant was involved in that quote-unquote alleged kidnapping? Or, well, rather, why did you believe that the defendant was the reason Reggie was not outside anymore?
Objection confusing or vague? And vague?
What kind of questions are going to ask us?
Rephrase the question, Grizz, but I do need 10 seconds, just 10 seconds to sort something out before you ask.
I watched this one.
Talk amongst
I
yourselves.
watched this one show. It was called, and like the episode was like something about like a sex tape or something.
And then you need to ask if any of the what he said in prison.
Okay, go ahead.
He referenced those unknown phone calls.
In your testimony, you were questioned about a kidnapping of Judge Reggie Might. You mentioned in your testimony the reason you had suspicions was because you went inside and you came back outside and Reggie wasn't there anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah. We were supposed to meet with Jasper later in the day, who Reggie was, and I was gonna watch over him.
And then you mentioned you received another anonymous phone call that mentioned to you that they got their prize buck. Is that correct?
Yes.
At that time, did you have any reason to believe that the defendant was speaking about Reggie or had anything to do with Reggie no longer being outside at that time?
Reggie had told me in the past that he might be taken, and he was worried that he would be. So when he was gone, that's what I jumped to. And then I got the phone call.
Okay, fair enough. You mentioned another phone call mentioning the mousetrap. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it possible this caller was referring to the board game known as Mousetrap?
That's what I thought at first.
Objection? Speculation?
She just answered.
Well, I hadn't finished answering.
All right. The objection is on the floor. No back and forth. The objection is speculation. Rebuttal. Go.
Rebuttal is the phone call as she described it was just mentioned if she wanted to play Mousetrap. It could have been referring to a board game.
Okay. The question was, is it possible if that was the reference?
Rebuttal,
Correct.
Your Honor?
Is it possible?
How is the witness supposed to know the intentions of the caller?
That's a good point.
All right. I'm going to overrule the objection. Is it
You could just say
possible
that's a good
that he was
point.
talking about Mousetrap?
Sounds like it.
Now, again, Grizz,
Oh boy.
are you asking if it's possible now or if she thought it was possible at the time?
If she thought it was possible at the time.
Go ahead and answer.
At the time, I thought it was, but it became more and more apparent that it was more than that. That it wasn't just a board game. I didn't just want to play a game.
Okay. I don't want to lead her too down scoping. So unless you got something, I think I'm good.
Go ahead. Ask your questions.
All right, Ash. During okay, during this phone call prior to the meeting at Grapeseed, did you have any idea on who you were meeting with?
I didn't know their name. They said something about a hashtag, and I thought maybe it could have been someone in that group.
Which
Smiley group.
did you go alone to that meeting?
Yes.
And were you disguised in any way?
Had a helmet on.
What type of helmet?
It was a motorbike helmet because I rode Reggie's motorbike.
Did that motorbike helmet have like a visor on it?
Objection, relevance.
Rebuttal.
I mean, okay, well, I'll get to it, Your Honor. I don't know how to rebuttal that because I was building a foundation.
Under the circumstances, I'm going to allow this question to continue. Ms. Ketchup, you may answer the question.
Yes.
And how long between you stated the individual unmasked themselves and then stabbed you? How long would you say between the unmasking and stabbing?
Only a few seconds. It was very fast.
And in those few seconds, are you 100% able to identify the attacker to a motorcycle helmet visor?
I don't think so. It happened so fast.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Anything on redirect prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
But could you give us 1 moment to confer?
Hey, Bill.
All right.
While they're conferring about that, check what I have. Here, tell me what you think about this. So when they want us to bring up evidence, I want to bring up report 31939. Reggie stated he was injected while in a vehicle, correct? Now, in that scene, there's a scene photo. There's a hammer, a screwdriver, things like that. There's no syringe pointed out in there. And
the hammer and screwdriver are from the...
Right. We know those are there, but there's no syringe there.
What I'm saying is they
Good path that I want to bash his head in.
So where is the syringe on the ground in any scene?
Grizz's head.
We're
Do
good,
it,
Your
you
Honor.
want. A lot of people.
Prosecution's ready.
Oh no,
He's-
I do too.
He's being so stupid at the moment.
Okay, proceed.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing...
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm
Wanted
just
to make
seeing
sure you were
a
ready.
syringe close up, but not like...
Ash, were there any topics from the known phone calls or interactions in person with the defendant that lined up with the unknown phone calls?
And then no picture of inside of a vehicle where a syringe could have been.
I don't understand what you mean. I'm sorry.
I'll try and clarify it. Were you called from 2 different numbers, an unknown number and the defendant's phone?
Yeah, after I did the interview, he called me more frequently from the regular number rather than an unknown number.
Okay. Between that number and the other one to clarify the first question. Did anything that the defendant
Man,
brought
they're
up
trying,
in
man.
those calls line up with each other?
It was usually always the same sort of thing that we talked about them wanting to hurt people.
To confirm, what did the defendant say to you when you were taken?
It's a mousetrap.
And did you tell anyone you were going to be at this meeting?
I wasn't expecting to go at first, so I borrowed Reggie's bike to go somewhere else, and then I headed towards Grapeseed after I got the call. And on the way there, my friend saw me driving, and he called me and asked where I was going, and I said I was gonna have a meeting with someone, but I wasn't sure who it was. And I said, if you don't hear from me, please call Reggie.
No more questions.
All right, defense, do you wish to recall this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Ketchup, you may step down for now, but you will be asked to return to the stand to be questioned by the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. Prosecution, does that conclude your list of witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. We would also like to address some evidence, though.
All right, let's limit it to evidence which has not already been discussed through testimony, please.
It is, Your Honor. However, we will be referencing quite a lot of evidence, so to make it easier for you, I will be sending you the transcript of what we're about to say. That way you can reference this later.
All right, that is fine.
I will be putting it in that group.
To be clear, you may reference evidence that's already been discussed, but please call to my attention any exhibits that have not been discussed that I need to look at more closely.
Okay, yeah, and I will be sending that to you, Your Honor.
All right.
All right, that's.
The first piece of evidence to be addressed is the defendant's admission under Miranda, referenced in the People's Why. Evidence labeled interrogation of Alvin Kowal. The defendant clearly identifies himself as the narrator and perpetrator of the various cases.
Objection, facts not in evidence. I only have People's X. We don't have a People's Y.
All right. Do we need to show that in the row on the list of evidence? Is that?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. It was incorrectly labeled. It'll be People's H.
People's H.
Yes, the master document, the interrogation is referenced in there.
There's no People's H in the master document?
It is at the top. People's H, master doc, underneath connected cases.
Cute, Javi.
It's there. It's oddly
Okay,
placed,
I see it.
but
Yeah,
it's there.
I apologize.
The defendant clearly identifies himself as the narrator and perpetrator of the various cassette tapes. At 7:50, the defendant states that he left Ash hanging, gasping, and then starts mimicking the noise for air. And continue to watch Miss Ketchup struggle for her life. Referring to the victim of people's health.
What's going on?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Skud, I need you to grab 3 pipe bombs from the warehouse.
Or what?
Just grab them. If they do sentence him or whatever, we're gonna blow him up.
Cool.
I also think that's a bad idea.
It was discussed to use snipers to take him out either way, but since Benji is not awake, we have no access to snipers.
They're not sentencing him today.
Well, that's the thing. We're not sure if they are or they aren't.
Didn't Reggie just say that they're just taking his plea today?
Yeah, but just in case, if they don't give out the verdict, we're not doing it. But if they do, then we're already ready. It's only if they give the verdict.
I'm going back in.
Yeah, honestly, I'd rather observe than drive around with a bunch of pipe bombs.
Oh, we're coming back. We're not driving around. We're just coming back. I just need to have them on me. That's all. And it will only be used if the verdict is given today.
The verdict's not supposed to be given today. And the other
I
case
know.
is showing up, so this will probably end pretty quick here.
Well, just in case, you know? Because if the verdict is given today for whatever reason, then we won't be able to hit him in time. I don't think half the boys knew that the court case was going on today.
So, like, what if they just find him guilty? You're playing.
We still hit the bus.
Why are they giving him the death penalty?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure, I think what we discussed with Benji and them is that whatever it is, it's better if we do it. But we were originally going to do it with snipers.
This is a phenomenally bad idea. There was only one in there.
Oh, that's good enough.
Hey, a cop. It's in the
Put it in the
glove
glove box. Thank
Yep.
you.
I'm gonna go on record and saying that I think that's a very bad idea, though.
What is?
Hype bombing a bus.
Probably risky, but the original plan was to put snipers all around, but considering we had casino yesterday, I think our sleep schedules are kind of meh.
I mean, especially given Ash's mental state, if anything happened to you guys while you were doing that, she would feel super guilty about it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of risk with very little reward.
I think deep down though, she wants us to do it though, because she told me about the court case even though it was sealed.
You don't think maybe that's
At
just
the
because you're her like son or whatever?
Yeah, but like she didn't like exactly like tell me, you know, she kind of just, oh yeah, I'm gonna be busy tomorrow, you know, there's a court case going on. I'll see you inside, Skud.
It's a bad idea. A very bad plan.
We are going to be calling no witnesses and would like to just go over any evidential discrepancies.
All right, the floor is yours.
Okay, Your
But,
Honor.
Mr. Grizz, next time, you know, I understand these are extenuating circumstances, but in the future, do not mark people for recall and then decide not to call them. It is bad etiquette and bad form in this court. Is that understood?
Absolutely understood. Sorry, Your Honor.
Examine your evidence.
Okay, we'd like to talk about report 31939 in relation to Reggie Mite's testimony, where he said that he was injected with a syringe in a vehicle. However, we see no scene photos of any inside of a vehicle or any syringe laying in a vehicle. We do see scene photo 1, which appears to be a construction site and a body laying there. We see pool of blood, nail gun, phone, hammer, cut ropes, some soaked blood on the person's face and things like that. We see no syringe marked in there. We do see separated syringe in evidence, but that doesn't really line up with the testimony that the syringe was used on him in the vehicle.
Objection, misstatement of testimony. Judge Mite very clearly said this was when he was kidnapped. The scene photos are from when he was attacked.
Okay. Counter rebuttal.
I didn't pick up on their discrepancy. The way I see it, the syringe is listed in the same report, which shows the scene there, and it just shows the singular syringe. But the judge said that the only instance he remembers the syringe being used on him was in the vehicle.
Objection,
Hold on,
again,
hold on.
misstatement of testimony.
Whoever's... Stop flicking your damn lighter. Go ahead.
That's our discrepancy, Your Honor.
Okay, and the objection was
Is that two parts, Your Honor? Firstly, the Honorable Judge Mite stated that he was injected multiple times throughout this entire process. He stated that on a couple times. And in regards to the vehicle that the defense mentioned, this was done when, as according to the statement and the testimony given, when he was originally kidnapped, not on scene at the construction site.
All right. No. The testimony of Judge Might, the different photographs of the evidence against the, everything that you are concerned about in that regard will be weighed upon accordingly. Your issues with that evidence are noted. Do you have anything else to examine in the evidence, Gris?
Nothing further from me, Your Honor.
All right. I know everybody probably wants a recess, but that is too bad. Are we prepared to go with closing statements?
The
Or do we need
prosecution is,
some
Your
time
Honor.
to prepare.
Wait, I'm so good. Like, did other people not show up from the court case?
Maybe they're just not here yet or whatever.
I didn't even see any of the police officers.
They might know. I mean, they especially would know it's not ready yet. You know, the other cops in here would be like, hey,
Oh,
show
yeah,
up.
I guess.
Your Honor, our client wishes to go over evidence himself as well.
I mean, I can
All
understand
right.
this case being long because didn't someone say they're pushing the death penalty or something?
Go ahead.
3.5 hours?
Wait, do I just do that now, just right here?
Yep, go ahead. Do it right here, right now.
How do I do that?
Oh, that, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Put him away. Yeah,
Oh
he
my-
sounds creepy.
He's very creepy.
Deserved.
That's mean. We probably shouldn't judge people on their.
All right.
I can
Your
hear
Honor,
his
I'd like to
fucking
first
frustration.
Point out people's. I'm just a little confused, Your Honor, as these videos were never brought up in any questioning.
But I think you're not supposed to like.
Okay, you have an issue that it was never brought up in any questioning?
Well, I guess is this my chance to go over all the evidence and pick out discrepancies and whatnot?
Yes, this is your time to go over the evidence.
All right,
That is
Your
what
Honor,
you're-
in People's A, Jessica Stevens, I guess two things I would like to point out is number one, there was no visual of an individual ever or the attacker ever on camera. And then stated in the ridiculous dialogue during the video, the attacker noted that he was using a voice modulator to imitate the voice of somebody else. And that's all for that, Your Honor. In People's B, I would like to point out
Just,
that once...
Mr. Kowal, you don't have to pause. If they have an objection over there, they're going to let you know, and I'm not going to be commenting. This is your time to go over the evidence.
Understood, Your Honor.
You don't have to wait for me to respond. They will chime in if they have any issues with what you're saying.
Yes, Your Honor. In People's B, once again, there was never a visual of an attacker, of the person. Okay. In People C, we finally catch a glimpse of the individual that is committing these heinous acts. And in 1:23 of the video, if you have watched the videos, we can spot that the individual attacking Reese Orland is in fact wearing gloves, which God, okay, he's wearing gloves, an orange getup, and a mask that covers his mouth. I don't know how much I'm allowed to dig into these on like what it kind of falls under speculation on my part.
Just wait for an objection. Examine the evidence the best way you know how.
All right. So as I stated, in 1:23, he's wearing gloves, even though it was stated that fingerprints were found on scene. He's wearing an all orange suit, and he's wearing I would guess or assume the voice modulator stated from People's A with Jessica, how he was referring to a voice modulator. In People's D, we have the attacker seen again on camera, once again wearing gloves, and the same orange outfit with dirty blonde hair. The evidence provided shows that a fingerprint was once again attempted to be removed from the phone, which was too smudged, I guess, to get a proper identification. People's E. The
Objection,
attacker-
speculation.
Okay, there it is.
I'm gonna sustain that.
Understood, Your Honor. No rebuttal for that. People's E. Allison Jules. The attacker is once again seen in his mask, gloves, and orange getup, as long with a second individual who appears into frame halfway through the video. People's F. Reggie Might. An attacker was never shown on video attacking the victim, so the one committing the acts is not properly identified. People's I. Faith Hudson. The attacker, once again, not shown on video, and there was no fingerprints or any other evidence submitted planting the defendant at the scene. People's J. Tate Hudson. The attacker of Tate is shown on video in all gray. Moved on from his orange, I guess. And there was no evidence left on scene placing the defendant there. People's K. The individual switches from gray to a greenish brown getup, and no fingerprints left on scene, or any other evidence 100% placing the defendant there. That is all I picked apart from the evidence, Your Honor.
All right. Are we prepared to proceed with closing statements at this time?
I would like to bring up one more piece of evidence, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
People's T at 8:06 p.m. The statement ends with the text from Alvin to Hannah. Did therapy go well? Hannah responds at 8:08. I didn't go. Today was another rough day. This shows there may have been some therapeutical, psychological things going on with
Objection,
Hannah
speculation.
that we do not have. Your Honor.
Yeah, there may have is definitely speculation, especially on your part as the counselor.
Okay. Your Honor, may I restate?
Well, the objection is sustained. So you may continue to examine the evidence, and if they object to how you do it, they're going to object again.
In the evidence, it shows that the Hannah Baker was going to therapy. There is no statements to state her mental state from a therapist that she was able to give testimony at that time.
Objection. Hannah didn't give testimony. She gave a statement to a police officer.
All right. Splitting hairs. We know that Ms. Baker is no longer on this earth and that she gave a statement not anytime recently. So I know that. Let's move on.
Oh, damn, this is serious.
Collins, why don't you park your fucking car in the parking lot?
What?
Leave your car out on the street.
Yes, because I've got my personal car parked to the courthouse as well.
People not on this earth anymore.
Okay, you only have one car parked there.
Yeah.
Somebody else that might not.
That sucks.
If he loses.
It is what it is. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
No longer with us. So how's it feel to be a captain?
Not of this earth.
Defense. Anything further on the evidence?
We're good, Your Honor.
All right. Are we now ready to proceed with closing statements?
Tell you after.
Yeah, the prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
I believe the defense is ready, Your Honor.
Very good. Let's proceed with the closing statements then.
Thank you, Your Honor. Today, you've heard the story of 10 victims and the defendant's involvement in their suffering. You've heard testimony not only from investigators, but from the victims themselves. The prosecution has brought forth evidence to show that the defendant was the man behind these grave videos and the attacks that they show. Attacks that would take the lives of Jessica Stevens, Reese Orland, Sebastian and Diana Kendrick, Allison Jules,
Sebastian Diana Kendrick,
Faith Hudson, and Tate Hudson. Attacks that would also harm and scar Levi Fisher, Reggie Might, and Ash Ketchup. All of these attacks have been linked through one common thing: videos. Videos that are horrific and gruesome, playing out the traumatizing events that each victim of the defendant was subjected to in a sadistic attempt to gain notoriety and control. Further connection with the defendant can be found in his own fingerprints, found in the blood of Jessica Stevens, Levi Fisher, and Reese Orland. Physical trauma didn't seem to be enough, as he inflicted emotional trauma on future
it's
victims
partially
and
unfair
their
just
loved
because,
ones
as Spitty
by
knows, I
calling
have
and
a history
texting
with
each one of them
Odessa.
while planning his future
Just-
attacks, or whilst the
I
victims
grit my
were
teeth
in his
anytime they're
custody.
talking.
When he got bored with the attentions of his victims, he started to contact investigators, informing them not only who he was holding against their will, but also the nature of any future attacks. As stated prior, he has emphasized throughout this case, as stated prior, and has been emphasized throughout our case, the defendant is the only assailant that has committed these serial assaults and killings. For the ease of the court and the people gathered here today, let us go through and see how the defendant's heinous acts fit this chart. Firstly, we have the factor that the attack should show premeditation or clear intent. We believe that this factor is abundantly clear in the fact that the defendant abducted and imprisoned his victims, clearly wanting them to suffer. Secondly, we have the instances occurring in separate events at different times. As stated prior, and has been emphasized throughout our case, the defendant has committed these attacks in multiple different cases, as he himself also admitted. Thirdly, and finally, we have the factor that the separate instances should share common characteristics, such to suggest the reasonable probability that these crimes were committed by the same actor. We believe that this is clear in the mode of operation of the defendant, in the clear documentation of each attacks in video format. Is this a man who could ever be helped? No. He even proved himself by saying he was going to turn over a new leaf, but then only continued to kill? Then now he claims that he's doing better in prison, but turns around and starts a gang to which he admitted it himself. The prosecution believes that beyond any reasonable doubt, this man is a killer and will always stay a killer. A killer who takes pride in his work. A killer who knows what he has done and happily gloats about it. A killer who could never change as per his own actions and lies. In one of these videos, the man claims to be a demon sent from hell. Well, Your Honor, the way I see it, it's time we send this demon to whence he came. That is all, Your Honor.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you, prosecution.
So cool.
Defense, you may give your closing statement.
Apologies in advance, Your Honor. I'm about to wing it.
Of course, floor is yours, Mr. Kowal.
Lawyer's just winging it.
Hold on, Your Honor. I'm going to say something to open his closing, and then he's going to continue the closing, if that's fine.
Yes, proceed.
Okay. Your Honor, in this court today, we feel nothing but prejudicial narrative has been supplied by the prosecution Prosecution assumes the defendant is involved in every step of their narrative. However, the burden of removing reasonable doubt has not been accomplished by the prosecution. While emotionally based testimony was heard by the court without any concrete proof of these narratives were directly related to the defendant, we feel this court simply cannot find the defendant guilty of these crimes. And sure, they have proven the defendant, surely they have not proven the defendant is guilty of assaulting and killing in a serial manner to support any such charge. If prosecution had any better evidence, they should have provided it and outlined it. We find that even in the hypothetical instance that the anonymous phone calls mentioned in testimony could be traced back to the defendant, it would not prove him guilty for anything other than harassment or prank phone calls. And the defendant himself would like to finish the closing.
Right. As stated, we have heard a lot here tonight. Mostly in the form of just phone calls, which were stated to arrive from unknown numbers. There is very little factual evidence provided referencing proof that the defendant is the one on the other line of these calls. No recordings, no actual phone numbers. A whole lot of speculation. It feels like the defendant himself is on trial for prank calling, as stated from Sergeant Mackenzie Hayes herself earlier, that the defendant placed a prank phone call on April Fool's claiming to be a different serial killer, and therefore never laying a basis, I guess, for the idea of prank calling in general. The videos were never touched on. Actual evidence was very rarely touched on. The crimes themselves not touched on. Only phone calls and conversations which have no ability to be proven and are complete speculation on on behalf of the prosecution. I believe that's it, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Stout, do you have anything further, or does the defense rest?
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
Okay. I do not want to seem like I'm rushing everyone out the door, but we have heard this entire case at this time, and it is now my responsibility and due diligence to review thoroughly every piece of evidence, the transcript from this proceeding, as well as all of the testimony and findings that we went over today in court. We are running late for another case, which was meant to start on the hour. So I do not personally have time, and the court does not have time to allow me to come back with a verdict on this evening. So we will adjourn at this time. Mr. Kowal will be remanded back into custody, and a hearing will be scheduled to both deliver the verdict, and should that verdict be rendered guilty, to proceed with a sentencing hearing, should that be necessary. But at this time, it will take me at least a day to review all of the evidence that has been brought to bear against the defendant in order to deliver a just and fair verdict on the serious crimes against him. So we'll be adjourning at this time. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I know this has been a long case and not a very pleasant subject matter. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend. And Mr. Kowal, we will get a hearing scheduled to proceed with the verdict and whatever next steps follow from there. But this court is adjourned for the evening.
Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you, Judge Holden.
Thank you all.
Did I just hear a kettle?
I don't know what I'm hearing, but it's very annoying.
You did, Reggie. You did.
Yeah, Seaside flop. What?
What?
What
The fuck? Is that a water park?
No. Inside joke.
Did well, Ash. I gotta get ready for this CG case now. Talk to you after. Huh? If my head doesn't keep exploding.
Yo, you're with your friend now.
All done and over for now. Wanna stay here?
There's gotta be two more healings.
Mm-hmm. For now. For today at least.
I don't know why they booked all of the court cases in the same day. Apparently there was one earlier, and then there's one after, and then there's one after that one that's after.
Yes. I can.
Yeah. It do be like that sometimes. Scheduling.
Javi, we need to discuss the importance of shadow members.
It was a mixture of everybody.
Ha.
And that's the even best part of it.
No. It wasn't meant for that. It was an inside joke between me and Flop.
Not in the courtroom.
Sorry.
Reggie's a
Thank you
butt.
for being here with me, you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, you can't hear me.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's very random. Actually, never mind. Who has a mirror in the bathrooms? Like the big long one right in front of a shower.
Oh, I do.
Doesn't everybody?
Wait, in front of the shower?
Yeah, in
so
front
when
of a
you come
shower.
out, you just see how. Never mind.
Well, it depends on the layout of
I'm
the
a weeb. I
bathroom.
don't shower.
Well, I'm contemplating putting a mirror in my bathroom.
So like,
But
in
I'm
the
very
shower?
shy. Yes.
So just on the
So like, while you're
shower
taking a shower, you
glass.
can just see yourself.
Not on the shower glass.
No, get the shower glass frosted.
Sherry trying to take
You can-
selfies for
you
Reed.
know, back home, someone I knew, they had the glass frosted just in the middle, not at the head, not at the toes, just in the middle.
Ooh, okay.
I think that's a very like old sort of fashioned sort of thing.
Nice.
Huh.
Gotta go check my phone real quick.
Come on, Antonio. We'll be back.
Right. I'm.
So where do we go now?
I want to watch Curtis's trial.
Oh, the Scudus one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna
What
watch
is this one
too.
about? Is this the
Terrorism.
herping thing?
Toes.
Oh God.
That's Jasper.
Yeah. I'm gonna go over there and just say hello.
No.
Yup.
Should say hello with a bullet.
He was very flustered when he called me.
He called you.
Not today, a month ago.
Oh, I didn't know. Why did he call you?
He was taunting, sort of, while we were looking for you that time.
Oh.
He wanted to set up a meeting with me because
Did you tell the police about that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't call you as a witness.
he just not only called me, but most of the UwU Cafe employees.
I didn't know that.
Huh. Did they ever mention sauna?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
I think he only talked about sauna to throw us off. He never actually intended to do anything.
you feeling, Ash? Feeling all right?
No.
Well, you're surrounded by your friends, and that's what's important. And I hope that we did everything we could today to make sure that he goes to jail.
Thank you.
Just
The height of him.
you have a good one, all right? And
What did you say?
I said the height of
too.
you.
I don't know what that even means.
Like, how dare you? Oh, the gold. Anyway, I got shit to do.
Worries. I'm never talking to you ever again, Reggie.
Thank fuck.
Neither's my cousin.
Which cousin? Didn't he die?
Was that Odessa?
Mm-hmm.
Why was Odessa leading that?
She's a prosecutor, I guess.
Hello.
Hi, Randy.
Oh, look, it's your best friend.
That's my best friend.
Should I call them?
Yeah.
Lucas, you call him. I'm sure.
Randy. Ash wants to say hi, Randy.
Why you like this?
Randy.
Lucas, please.
Randy.
Randy, Ash wants to say hello.
Randy.
What?
Ash wants to say
Oh
hi.
God, your best friend
whispering?
is
Why?
here.
You're whispering at me.
No.
I know, I'm shouting.
Just ignored me.
Oh look, Randy's best friend is sitting here in a corner.
Please.
Should we wave to him?
Who's this?
Can I take-
Rondo.
Should we wave to him?
Puppy. Oh, this way.
Oh God, he's still alive. I think Reggie's trying to get his cock out.
Yeah, I think he is.
Reggie, do you want help with your cock?
But he's doing much better. Yeah, Gunner shot him, and then I stabbed Gunner.
Just have to hold your cock and put it on the table, Reggie.
Sherry, I think everyone's just donut-walling us.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the video. Oh, it's not great.
Maybe they just can't hear us.
I don't know.
Anybody?
Oh my God.
I have just said fuck it, and I will hurt them as much as they've hurt my baby.
I don't
Are
know
we on
why
visit
Reggie's
right
having
now?
a hard time.
Oh, maybe we just stand
Oh my
up.
God,
Yeah.
Reggie's
Chicken.
cock's on a table.
Yes, chicken.
Reggie whipped it out on the table.
Look, Flop, Reggie's cock's on the table. It took him a long while to get it up.
It's not as good as mine.
Wait, where's your cock? I don't even see it.
Right here.
On the floor.
Where?
It's all the way on the floor.
God, it's just like the old times. Can't see your
Can
cock.
we get
God,
bunny?
Kim. What's up?
Can you help me get bunny?
I can. I gotta go help real quick with something. I'm gonna give you a call as soon as I'm done, okay? I gotta help
Okay.
assist with getting him back, so
Oh. Be careful.
thank you. Thank you. I'll talk to you, okay? Good to see you, Sherry.
Bye.
Thank you guys for all coming. I
Are you
really
hitting on me
appreciate it.
again?
No, I'm not. I'm married. I'm married, Sherry.
Yeah, your rebound marriage, I know.
Married people can still hit on people.
Well, Winston and Ziggy are fucking these days. And Ziggy wants to put Flop's photo on my box and then do something to me.
I have to put a disclaimer on my dog now. Hello.
Yeah, I
Wait, you
don't
want to
think
put it on
Ziggy-
your what?
On my box. You know, the
Oh,
box that
on
I
your
wear.
box. Oh, I thought you said something else.
So the front side of the box, of course, has a hole in it. The back
Ow.
side is flat, so he wants to put his photo. And I'm a power bottom, so I can handle it.
Hmm.
Yeah, just don't hurt him, please. Here, hold on. Give me 1 second.
Bundy, I need a separate assault charge on Curtis Swolroyd, please.
Oh, what did Curtis? Oh no. Oh no.
Curtis?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be here in a bit, probably. He might be outside.
You just sent that, right, Your Honor?
Oh my God, Curtis.
Sent that, right, Your Honor? Yep. So we're
That's a lot of people.
No, not anymore.
Announcement?
Yeah, you're good. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to make sure that everything goes off
But like, how
without
long
hitch,
ago?
'cause I don't
How many
trust that
minutes
it
ago?
won't.
I'll be right back.
It's gonna horribly wrong.
Oh, good. I still have my food.
You guys got this. I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no,
Is it okay if I shadow the
This
PD
Curtis's
side,
side?
just listening in on the thought process, or if this is like too big of a case for that?
This is Defendant. That would be a Bundy question.
Hello, bro.
It's not really my call to
hello.
make.
Should we move to the other side?
Here real quick.
Okay with it, then yeah.
Is that a chicken on the desk?
I just don't want to say yes if it's not.
There's no
Red
sides
one,
in
you go.
court, only in
Oh,
weddings.
okay. Oh, okay.
If it makes you feel more
What?
comfortable.
It's just
with
your
yourself.
cock. It looks so big.
Is that KFC?
I think Curtis would
Nova, can
appreciate
you
if we
get
moved
Bundy?
over.
To get Mikhail's chain through.
That'd be loud.
Oh, sorry.
Why is there a
Bundy!
Are you sure it's not KFC?
Bundy, come here a second.
Huh.
Where's Murphy?
Your Honor, do you need?
I need him before the court case.
Yeah, yeah. That's Reggie's cock. Part of me wants to hug you just to fuck with Petey right now.
I wouldn't do that.
Where's Julio? The fuck?
He's not allowed to be here.
He's not allowed to be here.
What?
They can't be within like.
He can't be near her.
Made
it.
I thought they couldn't. They just couldn't talk.
No, he
Why
can't
you
be
like this?
here.
Oh, he's here with
Because
me.
I can
Please
be.
let me alone.
Fair enough.
I think Miguel.
Is that Cameron?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Hey.
Screw it.
Waiting 45 minutes.
Wake up at like
Alright.
random times, I swear.
Yeah, I haven't woken up in like a week.
Here.
Hello.
Last time I was awake, you're awake.
Hello.
And then you just like dip.
Hey, Bundy.
People dip.
Of course, I'm here for Miguel.
Can you bring my chain through, please?
Yes. Yes and no.
Can you get Curtis's too?
Come on, grab it. Nova, come get yours.
You want to go get your chain?
Dropping off a
Yeah.
car
Go
or
get your
something.
chain.
So she's live. now, right?
Curtis.
Oh, she's
call
giving
Bun.
Alex's
He's gonna get
cab
it for
or
you.
some
Yeah.
shit.
Oh, okay, that's probably what it was. She went to the car.
okay.
I was in the middle,
how
I
are
was
you?
listening.
I mean, that's the only assumption I could really have, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This feels like the full mural. I'm not even gonna lie.
He's so stupid, bro.
Fuck, so scared.
That's what we talked about the other day, though, Danny. It's like
Hey, what's
big
up, Reggie?
days.
Looking
I'm
cute.
probably gonna stream to YouTube. Big days for my friends.
Wait, will they get mad that we're over here?
Yeah, what's up, Nova?
Doesn't matter.
I guess he did just talk to us over here.
Yeah, exactly. Right here, I'm just gonna shove it in your pocket. Thank you, thank you.
Oh yeah, shove it in there.
Boom, there's you. Did you give it to me, Bundy? What the hell? No, I gave it to Curtis.
Yeah.
Curtis was fucking two-fisting him there for a second.
That's
I feel like I'm gonna hate this.
Double chain.
There you go, Nova.
Is Jocko here?
It do be like it when I double fisted. Right, bro?
What's up, boys? Hey, hold it. Why you
I
punching
didn't
me,
know
bitch?
we did that.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. Oh
how did
my
I go
gosh.
over here?
Oh my
Let me
god.
back out of that. The hell?
Hey.
Hey, keep whispering, motherfucker. Ain't gonna be chaos.
Ron, did you need a bit of time with your clients?
Anybody got like?
It's Curtis, man. He's pushing
I need
buttons,
an
man.
IFAC. Anybody got one? I'm fucked up.
Yeah, I actually need an IFAC.
Hey,
Who's
what's
got
up,
IFACs
Curtis?
for me?
Good luck, boys. Good luck. Good
Boss,
luck.
why the fuck do you
Oh
look
my
like a
God,
ball
Cody, I
sack?
didn't even recognize you.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
not
Bass.
used to wearing this kind of
Hey, boss, can I have some IFAC, please?
supposed to dress up for
Because I
this?
just got beat up.
I wasn't sure.
Yo, Murphy.
What up, Penny?
What's up?
You ready to hold your man
Wow,
down?
Looking good. Looking good.
I appreciate it.
Hold him down.
I hope this goes
Hold
well
him
for
down
them.
Gal Jones.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think it should. I don't think they can
I don't
prove
think he'll
intent.
get. Yeah, I don't think he'll get terrorism. I think he'll get like
No.
attempted murder, which like, who cares
They
at
might
that
get,
point, you know?
They might get the baby terrorism, but not terrorism.
Yeah.
I don't think they can prove intent.
What the fuck is this?
Not beyond a reasonable doubt.
It's Gal Jones. It's Curtis is, you know,
That's
side
Randy's
chick.
baby mama right there, Rami.
Jocko?
It's Randy's baby mama and Curtis's boo.
This is
Okay?
Jocko?
What the fuck?
What the fuck, Curtis?
Excuse me?
It's fucking boo.
Hey, Curtis, I can tell you.
Nah, what does he look like, bro?
Could be a side piece, Benny. Could be a side piece.
No fucking side piece on his boo.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Hell no, I'm the
Yo,
fucking boo.
Curtis, is this what you were talking about the other day?
What is a bow? What does this mean?
Murphy.
Maybe she's friendly, like girlfriend, like boo, like pet name.
Fuck, I got something for you.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be awake to the end of the court case. You got like 1 minute.
Remember you said you couldn't ERP with Penny, so you're ERPing with this chick? Is this the chick you're talking about?
Get her, Petty. Get her.
Something I gotta give you.
I legally can't say anything.
Yep.
I plead the fifth. But
Can
is
you
he
meet me
killed
at
a
the
man
front door?
for
Shit ton of food
You
in my
met the front door.
pocket. You
Think
guys
so.
get hungry.
Meet you at the back door.
No, it's not what matters. It's him.
Yeah, you can bring
No,
food in
man.
here.
I announced it in the Discord.
Yep.
Legally, yeah, you can still break your belt. Nope, he didn't do
Maybe
anything.
I'm head for a minute.
Of course not. Nope.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I don't normally stream this or as early as I started today, but
Part, I feel like.
No, you wanna.
The free space is Curtis Herbs.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Herbs.
I'll look at my
What's up,
calendar.
man?
Oh hell yeah.
we'll probably switch over to Twitch in like an hour or two.
Hmm?
Oh, I don't have a phone. Go outside and save that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You look at that, Curtis.
That's what
Kind of just depends on what I do after the court cases. I was thinking about seeing if some of the UwU people want to do some Valo or something.
I'm talking
Fucking hell.
Come on, Curtis.
If we do variety, we'll stick with YouTube today.
What, man?
You can't be saying that shit,
Aw.
Curtis.
How can I help it, man?
Come
She's
on.
happy to see me.
Out of it, bruh.
Oh, fuck. Shit, bro.
I killed a man for Curtis. He'll love me
No,
soon.
she did in cold blood. She shot this man at the ATM machine. Jesus
Go in that bitch.
Chased me off of a whole ass construction site.
All right,
Bro,
so
do you know
Parachute
the,
it.
do you know the
Was the judge
fear
wondering where
that I
I
had
was
when
already?
you landed behind me?
I could
You
picture
should.
the fear.
That shit was
Guys,
crazy.
I just had to go
Where's
out.
Max? He's
I
awake.
finally got my Porsche, boys.
Yeah, I seen it.
Did you
Murphy's
scream?
back.
Wait, Curtis, did you
Murphy's back.
scream?
Thanks to you guys. Thanks to Hush.
Hell no, I'm a G,
Hell
man.
yeah, you
Hell
fucking
nah.
screamed. Hell
I'm a
yeah,
G,
you
bro.
screamed.
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
Oh man, I'm so glad I don't have that cheap classic anymore. That thing was ass.
What's up? You like ass? So do I.
No, I said the Cheetah Classic was ass.
God, Curtis, you're so
Oh.
close. You're
I
so
mean, it's a
close.
great car, soon to be available from Autos Autos.
Hey, you.
Is currently available from Autos Autos.
Julio?
Oh my god, that's so hot. You guys can ERP across the room. Wait, what?
Across the room? Aww.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Cross lover.
Aww. Hold it down.
Prosecution, do you have all your witnesses here?
We are missing one, Your Honor, but he's en route. He's just going to be here a little late. That's all.
All right, Brian.
Yeah,
Do you need any more
Dodgers-
time, or are you good?
I am good to go.
Will 2 minutes be suffice, Bundy?
That particular witness won't be here for 30, but we can just put him third or fourth on the list since we've got
Okay.
5 witnesses in total, I think.
Your Honor, since we are running late, one of my witnesses has requested to go first, but if it's at all possible to handle his testimony, I only have a few questions for him in deposition style before we formally begin, so we can maybe get out of here.
Is that Rami Murphy?
Yes, Bundy.
Let me discuss with the co-counsel. I don't personally have a problem with it. Okay.
Why do I hear a chicken?
In plain language, the prosecution has determined we don't care. So yeah, we're good with that.
All right, let's handle a deposition style for Rami first. Then I'll call this into session. Crane and Randy, can you fuck up?
Sorry.
Thank you. All right, I'm calling this into session today. This will be the people versus Nova Walker et al. We're going to be doing a deposition first. I'm calling Rami. Maybe Rami.
Did Rami already get ADD and leave?
Probably.
You want to give him a call, Brian?
What you thinking, bro? They winning?
He already done.
Wanted to go first, not here.
I have no idea, honestly.
That's impressive.
Okay, we're doing your testimony like before we even start the case, so you know. Yeah. 5 minutes? Yeah, no, they need some time anyway. All right, he'll be here in 5 minutes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right.
That pug sounded sad.
I mean, if you want to get like started in opening statements, you know, by the time
we're gonna do it that way. I'm just gonna kick it off with the statement of claim, then we're gonna go.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Into opening, and then we'll hit up the deposition through that. I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but just for the sake of time, because we've already been running late from the previous court case, we'll try and save everyone's mind from exploding. Okay, statement of claim reads: on the 31st of March, 2022. Leading into the early morning hours of April 1st, 2022, Nova Walker, Miguel Amarion, and Curtis Warwood unlawfully took part in the use of extreme violence against the civilian population in the pursuit of political aims, specifically attempting to shoot a blimp out of the sky bearing the advertisement for the mayoral candidate Sabbath Bunny Cohen with Class 2 gunfire. More specifically, on the 31st of March 2022, Chief of Police Sam Bass, while in the area of Mirror Park, observed the blimp bearing the campaign advertisement for Sabbath Bunny Cohen under automatic gunfire from a white and colour Frogger helicopter. The Unified Police Department scrambled Air 1, which pursued the helicopter away from the blimp. As the first helicopter was chased away and landed in the area of Magellan Avenue, the blimp returned to the AirX facility in Fort Zancudo for emergency repairs, where it was intercepted by a second Frogger, this time orange in colour. Individuals from the ground fired upon the blimp, and it again evaded southbound towards Los Santos International Airport. At this time, the orange in colour Frogger, occupied by Nova Walker, Miguel Amarion, and Curtis Warwood, proceeded to fire upon the blimp, rendering its engines on fire and causing it to crash into the bay adjacent to the Los Santos International Airport. Air 1 intervened at this time and pursued the orange and colour Frogger northbound towards the lighthouse near Catfish View, where the helicopter and all its occupants were shot down and brought into custody. Further facts and details, as they may be testified to at trial, indicate further political motivation. However, it is the articulation of the Unified Police Department that the act of shooting down a blimp bearing a campaign advertisement over active runways and occupied portions of the city constitute political motivation violence for the purposes of demonstrating the charge of terrorism. Okay, now that I've gone through that, we're going to go with the prosecution for opening statements.
We're just presuming that they plead not guilty to everything, Your Honor.
A good point. All right, let me run through the charges. Nova Walker, attempted murder of a government employee ×4. How do you plead?
Can you say it again, Reggie?
Attempted murder of a government employee ×4. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Criminal possession of a Class 2 firearm ×2.
Guilty.
Terrorism ×1.
Not guilty.
All right. Miguel, criminal possession of a firearm Class 2 ×1. How do you play?
Guilty.
Attempted murder of government employee ×4. How do you play?
Guilty.
Possession of stolen property in the 3rd degree. How do you play?
Sure, guilty.
Resisting arrest ×1. How do you play?
Guilty.
Terrorism. How do you play?
Not guilty.
All right. Curtis, misdemeanor possession of a controlled dangerous substance, oxy and/or meth ×1. How do you play?
Guilty.
Criminal possession of a Class 1 firearm. How do you play?
Guilty.
Attempted murder of a government employee ×4. How do you play?
Not guilty.
Okay. And terrorism. How do you play?
Not guilty.
Okay. I have noted the pleas on that. Prosecution. Ready when you are.
Yes, Your Honor. All right. There's Mr. Roman. All right. You ready for me, Your Honor?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor, people of the court. The facts of this case are very simple, and many of them are not in contest. On March 31st, 2022, on the eve of the election, a blimp flew through the skies advertising the mayoral campaign of Sabbath Bunny Cohen. Shortly thereafter, the defendants named herein took flight to the sky in a Frogger helicopter. Evidence suggests that Mr. Swolleroyd rented out not just one, but 2 Frogger helicopters in the hours leading up to this incident. In the area of Dean's World, as the blimp was lifting up into the air after picking up a passenger, it was intercepted by a white or gray in color Frogger helicopter, which, after attempting to make verbal contact with the blimp, opened fire on it. The blimp's pilot began to take evasive maneuvers as the passenger dialed 911 requesting assistance. Assistance did come once the blimp had reached the area of Mirror Park. Needing repairs, the blimp flew to Fort Zancudo, where the pilot performed emergency maintenance in the AirX hangar. The blimp took flight once again, and this is where our defendants entered the story. Nova Walker, Curtis Swolleroyd, and Miguel Almirian. One or more of them approached the blimp on foot, while the others were climbing down a ladder or staying on the rooftop near the AirX hangar where an orange and color Frogger was parked. Multiple suspects opened fire on the blimp as it left the hangar, causing the engines to smoke and sputter once again. The pilot, needing to put the blimp down for maintenance, once more proceeded to the Los Santos International Airport. As the blimp attempted to land, it was again intercepted by the defendants, opening fire mid-air, causing the engines to burst into flames. The pilot and the passenger evacuated the blimp just as a police helicopter intercepted the orange and color helicopter in the skies. The defendants were pursued in the helicopter, entering into a dogfight with a police unit before they were ultimately shot down into the ocean adjacent to Catfish View, a location mere blocks away from where mayoral candidate Ramiel Rahman was hosting a campaign event. In interrogation, none of these particular facts were questioned, nor should they be questioned tonight. What is questioned by the defense is whether the acts committed fit the bill for the crime of terrorism. The Unified Police Department will seek to prove several key facts. First and foremost, that the action of deliberately seeking out a blimp bearing a campaign advertisement and shooting it down from the most populated airport in San Andreas is an act which, in and of itself, should constitute terrorism. Second, the Unified Police Department will seek to establish that most, if not all, of the defendants bore direct political motivation for their actions and harbored relationships with mayoral candidates which cannot be untied from their violent act of shooting down a blimp bearing the opposition's advertisements, and that any argument to the contrary is unreasonable. Tonight, we ask the court to keep that word in mind, reasonable. As although the defendants are likely to assert excuses for their actions, such as they just wanted to steal a blimp as they told officers during interrogation, or a convoluted robbery or a joyriding experience, depending on which one you listen to, none of those doubts created will be reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Bundy. Murphy, when you're ready.
All right. Is that this is basically the biggest he said, she said case built from the bottom up on assumptions by law enforcement, around interviews with leading questions about political affiliations. This is the biggest example of a he said, she said. And there's so much reasonable doubt in this case, it will be impossible to acknowledge. So please do focus on that word reasonable.
All right. Thank you, Bruin. Okay, so as discussed before, we're going to go into a deposition style for Rami just for the sake of his time. Rami, could you step forward, please? Take a stand.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. O'Rahman, do you affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
All right. So being that it's the defense's witness, Ron, you're right to go.
All right, Mr. Rahman, thanks for joining us today. I just have a few quick questions. Don't want to take up too much of your time on this Friday night.
Of course.
On the eve of the election, before Election Day, where were you?
Event actually promoting the campaign and me running for mayor.
That's my mayor.
Okay.
It was a Burn Island event, 100K hide and go seek type thing, manhunt, if you would say actually. It was helped to promote the campaign, and it was actually a great turnout.
Okay.
I told him to run again.
You know, to the best of your
Hopefully he'll do
recollection, could you give me
Like 30, 40 people. It was kind of huge. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay. Were there many people involved in your campaign at this party?
Yeah. Yes, there were.
Okay. And were you aware of any political activity going on outside of this island that evening?
No.
All right. Now, I'm going to ask you just a few more questions. And these might be difficult for you as you are an expunged citizen, and these were a long time ago. But have you ever actually interfered in an election?
Yes.
Okay. Could you describe to me in what manner that was attempted or achieved?
Randy Bullet and I were helping Marlo run for mayor about like 8 months ago, and we had a truck full of people who haven't voted on the back of a pickup truck, and we drove them to the town hall.
Okay. I'm assuming with the intention of converting them to votes for your candidate.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That is that's pretty much all I have.
What
All right. Prosecution. Ross.
Just one moment, Your Honor. I need to gather a couple of pieces of evidence to refer.
Your Honor, sorry to interrupt, but I won't get charged with anything, right? With what he said?
Nah, statute of limitations, Randy. We good.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
He stated it was 8 months ago.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to point out, Randy, he did name drop you in that video, though.
Huh?
Yeah,
Straight, bro. We straight. Don't worry about it, bro. We alright.
Are we good though, right?
Yeah, we be alright, bro. We be alright.
All right, Mr. Al-Rahman. So I just want to talk to you about the Burn Island event that you had put together. Do you remember approximately what time that event was supposed to occur?
I don't remember actually. I do remember though, we postponed the event like for like 30 minutes because we were waiting for Curtis and Miguel to come to it.
Waiting for Curtis to be able to come to it. Prior to attempt to make a telephone call to, let me see, Miss Nova Walker in relation to that event.
I never called Nova.
Never called Nova. Okay,
No,
interesting.
I only called Miguel and Curtis.
you're
I didn't
okay.
know Nova was awake at the time, actually.
Got
boyfriend's
you,
right
okay.
there.
All right, so phone records indicated that you called her at 1:15 a.m. UTC on April 1st.
I think that was after the fact you guys had already captured them. I was actually wondering, I was trying to see what the hell was going on. The event was much earlier than that.
Okay.
I believe the event was like at 10 o'clock, or I don't remember. It was not at 1:15. It wasn't that late towards next to the tsunami.
Well, the time would be in UTC. This was actually 20 minutes before you texted Curtis asking him whether or not.
I don't know what UTC is, my friend. But all right.
Yeah, nobody does. I don't know why we print our records in that. Okay, so you were expecting Curtis to be in attendance at this event?
Yes, and Miguel.
Curtis and Miguel were supposed to be there. Okay. What purpose? For what purpose was Curtis supposed to be there?
Come support the boys, man. Your boys running for mayor. Come support. Come show out. You know. It was an event for everybody. I welcomed everybody. I called Bass. I called everybody was welcome. It was a citywide event that I was trying to hold for everybody. It wasn't.
Gotcha.
Nobody was not allowed. Everybody was welcome.
Okay. Would it offend you if I told you that in interrogation, Curtis actually told us that he had no support for you whatsoever?
Oh man, fuck him.
All right, objection, scope.
Man. Rebuttals that scope was cracked
man,
open
fuck
2
him,
questions
fuck your
ago on
girl,
this.
bro. Yo, fuck his family, bro. Yo, fuck your life. You see the dog outside him upstairs.
Bing bong.
Alright,
bang.
So there's an objection on the floor. Can you say it again, Bundy?
Scope was cracked open 2 questions ago when we started talking about these phone calls, and Mr. El Rahman actually cracked it open with his own answer.
All right. Well, Rami has no idea what happened in interrogation, and it has nothing to do with what was asked.
That's a fair one. I'll withdraw the question.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So this is a campaign-related event. Were they anticipated to help you with your political campaign for mayor?
No, they were not.
No? Okay. All right. I am going to defer to co-counsel to see if she has anything else she'd like to ask.
Yes, I do. All right. I'm going to keep this very short because I know I have to leave soon.
You're good. Go ahead.
So
take your time.
just in relation, I guess, to your mayoral campaign, since that was brought up prior, did you have these printed for your mayoral campaign?
I can't see it, but I'm assuming it's the vote for Rami card.
I'll show you. Let me get up here. Make sure the judge
Yes,
can
I
see
did.
it as well. Okay. Did you print these personally, or did you have someone do it for you?
No, I went through James Arsenal, who works for. Second, I'll tell you right now. Works for Pastel, or the card company. Actually, whatever the card company is called. What the fuck it's called?
All right. Do you pass them around to your friends?
Yeah, pass it around to everybody. You know, everybody who all the family, and we actually had them out of the UwU cafe.
Excuse me, sir.
People were getting them in their meals, in their combo meals. It's like a little goodie.
Okay, so I just wanted to confirm this is promotional material specifically for your mayoral campaign, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, that's all I had.
Prosecution is good on cross, Your Honor.
All right. I just want to clarify one question on that cross. Okay, so Rami, just to confirm, you were giving those cards out like hotcakes to everybody, and through also partnerships with businesses.
Yeah, everybody and their mother got one of those, as well as I had a shirt get tailor made saying "Vote for Rami" that was available in the clothing stores throughout all of the city for both females and males.
So not just people you would be assumed to be affiliated with.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, that's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Rami. Free to leave.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're going to resume back to the normal trial. Prosecution. Who are you going to call as your first
Good
witness?
luck, Rami.
Fuck you,
Thanks.
bro. Fuck you and Penny, bro. You want to come to me? Hey, what's-
Prosecution would like to call Sheriff Sam Bass to the stand. I know. Fuck you, Ron.
Thank you. Sheriff?
Think they're being found guilty.
All right, Bass, do you affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you, Nikita.
I do.
All right. Okay, so we're just gonna dive right into it. Were you on duty March 31st, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And while you were on duty, did you ever make your way to Mirror Park?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. While in Mirror Park, did you perform any traffic stops?
I did.
Okay. Did anything special happen during that traffic stop?
Yes, ma'am. I was conducting a traffic stop on Lang Buddha southbound, I believe Mirror Park Boulevard. That's when I heard multiple audible shots fired coming from the northeast. I looked up. I saw a helicopter, a green color helicopter, opening fire on Sabbath Gohan blimp in the air.
Could you describe that blimp for me?
It was pink in color. Also had a fat picture of Bunny, Sabbath Gohan.
Your Honor, if I may, I believe it's the People's Exhibit P. Could we put that on the?
So you're calling
on
Bunny
board?
fat?
You calling the mayor fat, Bass?
What the
Did you
fuck?
really just call her fat?
That's rude.
I called the blimp fat, not the mayor.
Damn.
He said fat picture.
It was an
Fat
enlarged
picture.
picture of the mayor's
So-
face on it.
Yeah, I would like it reflected for the record that he was not not calling the mayor fat.
Too
And
late, I
if-
already live tweeted it.
I'd also like it reflected that
Damn.
he is the sheriff of the PBSO, so this reflects on the LSPD in no way if he was calling her fat.
Oh, true.
Bro, this guy just called the mayor fat.
Oh, wait, so we get that picture up there.
Yeah.
Oh, bing bong. Okay.
That's a fat blimp right there.
Yeah, I
That
see what you
is-
mean now,
Why are you
honestly.
singing that tone? That's
Yep. Was
fat
that the
blimp.
same blimp that you saw getting shot at over Mirror Park?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So after you saw the was this the white helicopter you said?
Green color helicopter.
The gray one. Okay. So after you saw the gray helicopter opening fire on that blimp, what did you do next?
I ordered the ground units and Air 1 to locate the green color helicopter and authorize lethal force to disable it.
Okay. Were you and other units able to locate it?
Affirm. We got on a chase with the helicopter. It led us to the Bondi Boy area.
Okay.
DMC here by Magellan and Basic Avenue.
Okay. So what happened once the helicopter and officers got over to